Okay, good morning. Today is Thursday, May 16th, and this is the time and place for the regularly scheduled Nevada Gaming Commission meeting for the month of May. If you would please rise and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Madam Secretary, has our agenda been posted in accordance with the open meeting law?
Yes, it has.
All right, at this time, I would like to remind anyone coming to the podium to speak. We ask that you speak directly into the microphone and speak as clearly as possible, as this meeting is being transmitted electronically and being transcribed by a court reporter. Madam Secretary, if we could please proceed with our first agenda item, public comments.
This item is placed on the agenda to give the public an opportunity to comment on gaming-related matters.
Anyone who wishes to address the commission may do so at this time. Matters brought to our attention during public comment cannot be acted upon, but we are happy to hear comments of the public as well as any from my fellow commissioners. Comments by all will be limited to 3 minutes as a reasonable time, place, and manner restriction. If any of my fellow commissioners or myself ask any questions of the public, the time needed to address those questions will not be held against those time constraints. If you have any handouts or copies of your comments to provide, please do not approach the dais with them. An enforcement agent will come and take them from you. I will first go to Carson City. Anyone present in Carson City wishing to make public comment? It appears there is no one present in Carson City wishing to make public comment. Here in Las Vegas, please state your name for the record. Please state your name for the record.
Glenn Hunsuck,
Okay, and could you spell that for the court reporter, please?
GLENN HUNSUCKER.
Okay, sir, you have 3 minutes.
All right. This regarding amendment to 5.23, I believe, about the you guys not having access to casino games, denied access. Okay. I welcome this amendment to the gaming regulations and wonder why it's taken so long for the commission to realize that you weren't allowed to investigate certain parts of the casino industry. The gaming board and commission should be allowed to inspect any casino game or casino operation anytime without prior notification. The commission should demand that casinos cooperate, not ask them. The wording of this amendment sounds apologetic and weak. You use the word unsuitable to describe their refusal to cooperate. Unsuitable is not strong enough. If a casino refuses to cooperate, they should be closed down right then because they're hiding something. I'm surprised I would have to tell a bunch of attorneys that. Because the commission has not been allowed to thoroughly investigate the casino games, casinos get away with using tapered playing cards in blackjack and electromagnets in roulette and the crap game. You don't know this because you're not allowed to investigate. I investigated for 20 years, so I know. Computerized shuffling machines arrange the playing cards instead of randomly distributing them. These machines are controlled remotely by people who may be in this state or another country. But you don't know that because you're not allowed to investigate. If casino owners can tell you what you can or can't investigate, we don't need a gaming commission. It's time to stop the fraudulent casino games and protect the consumer instead of the casino owners. This amendment is a good start, but useless if you don't get out of your chair and enforce it. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that wishes to make public comment today? Please step forward to the podium and state and spell your name for our court reporter.
Good morning. My name is Henry Anthony Joyner. Henry is spelled Henry. Anthony is spelled Anthony. Joyner is spelled Joyner. I was born in Philadelphia. I moved to Las Vegas in 2005. My first day of working at the Red Rock Casino was in 2017 on the 4th of July. My last day of work at the Red Rock Casino was this past Monday. I never felt like I was treated equally or fairly when I worked at the Red Rock. In 2017, I was hired as a cook. But on my first day, at the start of my shift, I was handed a broom and made to do the job of a kitchen steward. In 2019, I was put on, in 2019, I put on my union button and I wore it every day with pride. There's a reason workers at the Red Rock choose to be represented by the culinary union. In the kitchen I work at the Red Rock, there are 9 cooks on my station, on my shift. The kitchen is divided into 5 working stations. There should be about 2 cooks per station, but I was made to work alone in my station without support. Tickets come in, food goes down, food gets ready, food gets plated. It's fast, hard work. I had done alone while other cooks on the line had support. The stress of this work caused me to take pain medication. At the start of every shift, I took 3 extra strength Tylenol. Then mid-shift, I took a 500 ibuprofen. I did this for a long time, and my doctor told me recently to stop. I want a union job where I am treated equally. Any discrimination against any worker in the gaming industry should not and need to stop. And again, I'm sad to say that I never felt like I was treated equally. When I was working at the Red Rock. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you wish to leave a copy of your written statement? Okay.
I'll put these copies over here to turn in with both of our statements. Good morning. My name is Rory Kirkendall. I'm here from the Culinary Union. My name it's Rory, R-O-R-Y. The first name and last name Kirkendall is K-U-Y-K-E-N-D-A-L-L. Workers at Sunset Station casinos voted by 83% to unionize on June 13th, 2019. That was the only official vote the property ever had, and it was overseen by the federal government. Workers voted in a landslide majority in favor of unionizing. On April 19th, Station Casinos withdrew recognition from the Culinary and Bartenders Union as the bargaining representatives at Sunset Station. Just as with Palace and Boulder, we believe it has done so unlawfully. The same day as it withdrew recognition, Station Casinos announced that Sunset Station employees would now enjoy certain enhanced benefits that the company has offered only to non-union employees since January 2023. The Culinary Union had agreed in December of 2022 that Station Casinos should give the enhanced benefits to unionized workers at Sunset, Green Valley Ranch, Red Rock Casino on equal terms as non-union employees. But the company still refuses to do the right thing and uses its weaponized benefit discrimination scheme in its union busting campaign. We'd like to submit today for your review the April 19th memo from Jordan Seeger, Sunset Station General Manager, to unionize Sunset Station employees that we believe illustrates the benefit discrimination scheme. And I have that attached to my comment here. I'll be turning it in. We'd like, an employer violates Section 8A3 of the NLRA if it withholds benefits from union represented employees that it grants to unrepresented employees if it does so for the purpose of discouraging support for the union. Station Casinos, its parent company, Red Rock Resorts Incorporated, and its properties face a series of National Labor Relations Board cases that together constitute one of the largest labor law enforcement actions in history. A U.S. administrative law judge ordered 4 days of hearings starting on July 30th in an ongoing unfair labor practice trial over a complaint that was issued in April 2021. The evidence in the prosecution of station properties is powerful, and the prosecutors have messages and emails written by general managers and executives about the company's mud list of employees at Boulder and Palace. Mr. Frank and Lorenzo Fertitta must appear at the trial since Station Casinos lost its fight to block an order that they testify. They'll be testifying under penalty of perjury, and we expect them to tell the truth. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else present wishing to make public comment? All right, that concludes our public comment section. Madam Secretary, the next item on our agenda is the approval of the prior month's disposition.
Pursuant to NRS 241.05, this item is the consideration of the approval of the Nevada Gaming Commission disposition for April 2024.
All right. I believe all of us has had the opportunity to review the disposition, and even our newest Commissioner Silver, who I welcome to the commission, has had an opportunity to review the last month's meeting and the disposition. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right. And so if there is no discussion or questions or comments on the disposition, I would entertain a motion.
Madam Chair, I move for approval of the prior month's disposition.
Any discussion on the motion? There being none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And there are none opposed. Thank you. Madam Secretary, if you could please read in the restricted consent items.
Your items on the restricted consent agenda this morning are items 3, 4, 5, and 7. The recommendation of the Gaming Control Board is for approval with conditions as noted on the agenda.
All right. Is there anyone of us who have any questions or comments on these restricted consent items? There being none, does anyone have a motion they wish to make?
I'm sure I'd like to move to approve the restricted items on the consent calendar, please.
With the conditions as noted on the agenda?
Yes.
All right. Any discussion on the motion? No. There being none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And there are none opposed. Thank you. Madam Secretary, that brings us to our non-restricted agenda items held out for discussion. Please read in non-restricted number 1.
Non-restricted number 1 are the applications of Barry Diller for finding of suitability as a beneficial owner, controlling beneficial owner, officer, and director as noted on the agenda. The recommendation of the Gaming Control Board is for approval with conditions as noted on the agenda.
Good morning.
Good morning, Chair Tagliati, Commissioners, Secretary Rupert, Record Sean McGinnis with Snow on behalf of MGM Resorts International. With me at the podium to my left is John McManus, Chief Legal and Administrative Officer and Secretary of MGM Resorts International. To my right is Pat Madamba, Senior Vice President and Legal Counsel for MGM Resorts International. In the front row is Chandler Pohl, Vice President and Legal Counsel. And as you can see on Zoom, we have Mr. Diller and we have Ted Mervis with Wachtell, Lipton, Rosen and Katz, and Julie Nugent from Fox Rothschild. We want to thank you for the Zoom appearance waivers for Mr. Diller, Mr. Mervis, and Ms. Nugent. That's much appreciated. I presume you guys everybody here saw the board meeting. I'll give an abbreviated summary and then I can turn it over to Mr. Diller to introduce himself because there's some new commissioners who weren't here 2 years ago when he was before the commission before.
Thank you.
Essentially, this came about because 2 years ago, Mr. Diller received a 4-1 vote for a limited license, which was basically caused because of the SEC's active securities investigation, which came to light after the GCP meeting before the commission meeting. It should be noted that the one vote against Mr. Diller, against the limited license, was not a vote against Mr. Diller, but rather was a vote against a limitation that Commissioner Brown felt that there wasn't a need for a limitation at that time. But fast forward to today, we're here now with Mr. Diller as that was a 2-year limited license. And as you could see immediately prior to the board meeting, the SEC staff reached out to Mr. Diller's counsel, Wachtell Lipton, and we received a letter from SEC staff that informed Mr. Diller that the investigation closed by the SEC and that there was a recommendation of an enforcement action against Mr. Diller or any of his entities. And we understand the other parties that were party to the Activision Securities investigation received similar letters, and that was put on the record. So with that, I would turn it over to Mr. Diller.
Good morning. So I'm sorry I can't be with you. I am in New York City, and I have to be here for another board meeting. So I thank you for allowing me to participate today by video. I think you've just heard the disposition of the Activision issues, so I don't think it's necessary for me to comment upon them any further. I'll be happy to answer, though, any questions you may have. I answered a couple of questions, I think, when I was last up for a discussion. So I think that I will turn it back to you and of course be available for any questions.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that. At this time, I will ask my fellow commissioners, starting to my right with Commissioner Krolicki. Do you have any questions that you would like to ask anyone that's here today, or including Mr. Diller?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and good morning, Mr. Diller. It's a pleasure to see you, and you are a very busy man. Certainly, there was extensive conversations during the gaming control meeting, lots of notes. Certainly, I think points were made clearly that, in the future, the condition says it all, should there be any additional communication with the SEC or DOJ and Activision, you will notify us within the 48 hours. I think that requirement existed anyway, just as a licensee, but I accept that the condition just makes it extra apparent that is something that you'll need to do. I appreciate the thoughtful conversation of the Gaming Control Board, whether to do the 3 years or just place that condition. And I thought that was an appropriate conclusion to that conversation. And I'm otherwise fine, but I appreciate all you do. You're eminently qualified, beyond qualified. Serving on the Coca-Cola board and others, you have experience that very few people have. So good on MGM to have you in the boardroom. So again, I fully support your application with the condition that the Gaming Control Board placed on it.
Commissioner Solis Rainey.
Thank you. Welcome, Mr. Diller. I have a question. It might be for your counsel. The letter that the Department of Justice provided, closing the investigation for now, in my opinion, did not exonerate you of any charges. I realize it was just an investigation. They left themselves open that they could come back at any point to reopen that investigation. So I wanted to know from you or your counsel, have you heard anything further from the Department of Justice or the SEC?
I think that's probably, I'll defer to Ted Mervis to answer, but it was actually a SEC letter, not a letter.
I'm sorry, the SEC. I was looking at the other one.
Because the DOJ doesn't issue letters in that
Correct
aspect, but I'll turn it over to Mr. Mervis.
Good morning, and thank you as well for the opportunity to appear on video. We've had no further contact from either the SEC or the DOJ. And as a result, as I can confirm what my colleague, Mr. Nussbaum, represented to the board, that this letter, as a practical matter, is the end of the matter.
Okay. And I'm sorry, on the last part, you indicated that you're basing that understanding on what?
No, I'm simply was confirming the comment that my colleague from Wachtell Lipton, Mr. Nussbaum, who appeared with Mr. Diller before the board, referenced this letter and the SEC staff's conclusion that it had concluded the investigation.
Okay. And I apologize on the misstatement. I was looking at the DOJ letter the DOJ letter that they had sent to the board about communications and such. So I got the two issues confused. I realize the DOJ does not issue letters. With respect to the applications that were pending when you were last before us, there was applications pending in a number of states. Have those been resolved or acted upon?
I believe they have. I mean, we have
all of the applications that were pending at that time. Sure, it's Pat Madam, the Senior Vice President of the Council of MGM. All the applications pending at that time, those licenses or qualifications, findings of suitability of an issue.
Okay, so that was the seven.
There wasn't a few of them. The reporting condition, we were complying essentially self-imposed reporting condition, including when the matter came up. We essentially sua sponte told the regulators that it was.
Understood. And I agree with my fellow commissioner. The duty to report, I think, is there whether there's a condition or not. So I appreciate that. There's been definitely great cooperation in this case from the onset. I believe I acknowledged that in the prior proceeding a couple of years ago. So that's never been an issue, nor is Mr. Diller's suitability. I mean, just from my perspective, my only concern was the unknown. I don't believe that the burden, should have to shift to the board or commission to prove somebody's license needs to be revoked if there's questions at the onset on whether it should be issued. So that was my concern at the time.
Sure. And just for clarity, and I'm going by recollection, either resolved or pending at the time of the hearing 2 years ago was Massachusetts, New Jersey, Maryland, Michigan, and Louisiana. I believe they were the ones that.
Yeah, the ones that I had were different. It was Massachusetts, Colorado, Indiana, South Dakota, Washington, Louisiana, and Ontario. Those are the seven.
There were probably pending as the ones that were also resolved. So I'm conflating the two issues. Bottom line is anything that was pending at the time has been favorably resolved.
Perfectly. I appreciate that, Mr. Madama. I don't have any further questions at this time.
Do Commissioner Marcantonis or Commissioner Silver have any questions or comments?
Yes, Mr. Diller, thank you for appearing again in front of us. I, of course, am very satisfied with what I had heard in front of the Gaming Control Board, and I agree with Commissioner Krulicki that you've all managed to answer all of the questions. I realize this has been a very long road going since many years. I'm as a junior person compared to your extensive business career, I'm frankly in awe of your work ethic and the amount of boards that you have had to deal with and run at the same time. And I'm sure that you're figure out a way to have a balance of life. You mentioned that you might be retiring from one or two boards sometime in the future, but I don't think so, just seeing how you have worked in the past. But I am satisfied with what we have received from the SEC, and I will have no hesitation in supporting this application today either. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Commissioner Silver, any questions or comments?
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Diller, yes, I thank you for being here as well. And I watched the proceedings, and it did appear that maybe because of the timing of the letter that the condition was placed at the time. I'm confident, quite frankly, that there doesn't even need to be a condition. I'm not going to hold up a vote if the condition is there, but having been in law enforcement for 15 years, I'm satisfied just by the letter and then our further investigation into it, that it's completely concluded. The agency concluded it, and so there would be nothing for the prosecutor to prosecute at that point. So I was very confident that the condition was just unnecessary. But as I said, I'm happy to support your application either way.
Well, thank you. I would just add one thing just a, not a really a clarification, but this investigation arose because of the coincidence of myself and my stepson and a colleague of ours buying stock in Activision, only to find out 3 days later that it had been acquired, announced that it would be acquired by Microsoft. We had no insider information. We never acted on it. There was never, ever any in the investigation, any fact of any kind that would have supported anything other than we made, as they say, if you buy a stock, you're making a bet. We had nothing to base that on other than that we thought the company was undervalued. And it did take, as it does take, a long time to go through the process. The process was very cumbersome in terms of records and all sorts of information that we supplied, et cetera. I did one interview with representatives, government representatives. At the end of it, I think satisfied the answers that I gave, and I think the matter is closed. And I doubt. I think the SEC letter speaks for itself, and as we know, the Justice Department doesn't comment. So I'm glad it's finished.
Mr. Diller, thank you for being here today. As one of the two commissioners that was here a couple years ago in the first run, I agree generally with Commissioner Solis-Rainey's commentary about the burden shifting, and that's where I was 2 years ago. But I also think there's a balance between that and knowing that the federal government can do and take as long as they choose to undertake certain investigations, and how long. There's got to be like some balancing, right? And so when you're balancing that potential issue with the level of cooperation that you gave us, that you gave in the investigation, a lot of folks might have just stood up and said, I take the fifth, not because they did anything wrong, but because they're listening to 50 attorneys in an attorney sandwich telling them you should do that, right? And so you didn't do that. And that goes a long way as far as I'm concerned. Obviously, the letter speaks for itself, and that definitely has an impact here today. But in any event, I am comfortable going forward and will support any motion consistent with the board's recommendation if someone chooses to make one at this time.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I'm happy to move for approval of non-restricted item number 1, as read into the record by Madam Secretary, Ms. Nicole Rupert, and as recommended by the Gaming Control Board. Thank you.
Any discussion on the motion? We have any issues? It was as recommended by the board. So there's been a motion made by Commissioner Markantonis. Any discussion on the motion? There being none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And there are none opposed. Thank you, Mr. Diller. And yes. Oh, you were.
Thank you
oh,
all.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I didn't ask. I thought I heard. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Nay.
Okay.
I mean, again, I think the personal history is worth a lot to me. I wish there was a way we could balance giving him a non-restricted license with some caveat that if there's any settlement, prosecution, anything like that, then he comes before us. That's not before us. So that's the basis for it. And again, I in no way want to impugn his character or his great history of service both to the communities or to his businesses.
Okay. So I apologize. I thought I heard all yays. So with that said, congratulations and thank you for your appearance here today.
Thank you.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Madam Secretary, could you please read in non-restricted number 2?
Non-restricted number 2 are the applications of Entain PLC for registration as a publicly traded corporation, finding of suitability as sole shareholder of Entain Holdings UK Limited, an amendment to their order of registration. You also have the applications of Entain Holdings UK Limited for registration as an intermediary company and for finding of suitability as a sole shareholder of Entain Marketing UK Limited, Ladbrokes Coral Group Limited, GVC Holdings USA Inc. It is also the applications of Entain Marketing UK Limited for registration as an intermediary company, for licensure as a sole shareholder of bwin.party USA Inc. You also have the applications of Ladbrokes Coral Group Limited for registration as an intermediary company and finding suitability as a sole shareholder of Ladbrokes Holdco Inc. It is also the application of Ladbrokes Holdco Inc. for registration as an intermediary company, finding suitability as a manager and sole member of Ladbrokes Subco LLC, and for licensure as a member of Stadium Technology Group LLC. You also have the applications of Ladbrokes Subco LLC for registration as an intermediary company and for licensure as a member of Stadium Technology. It is also the application of GVC Holdings USA Inc. for registration as an intermediary company and for licensure as a member and manager at MGM LLC. You also have the application of bwin.party USA Inc. for licensure as an interactive gaming service provider. It is also the applications of BetMGM LLC doing business as Series Casino for a non-restricted gaming license, including a racebook and sports pool, and for licensure to conduct off-track race wagering. Finally, you have the applications of Sativa Benz, Simon Zinger, and Robert Wood for finding suitability and licensure as an officer, director, manager, and or key executive noted on the agenda. The recommendation of the Gaming Control Board is for approval.
Good morning, Chair Tagliati.
Morning.
Commissioners, Madam Secretary, thank you for taking the time to read that yet again. We appreciate it.
Ms. Okerberg, if I can interrupt.
Oh, please.
I'm sorry, Madam Chair, I
Yes.
have a quick disclosure to make.
Yes. Sorry.
And we can let Secretary Rupert catch her breath. While not a direct part of the Entain related application, I know that Mr. Scott Scherer was asked by the Gaming Control Board if he would like to make any representations or comments in his capacity as counsel for BetMGM. I wish to disclose that Mr. Scherer has previously served as my personal attorney in various matters, but I conclude that the independent of judgment of a reasonable person in my situation would not be materially affected by this relationship. I therefore intend to fully participate in consideration of this matter today. Thank you.
Thank you. For the record, I'm Erica Okerberg. I am Nevada Gaming Counsel to Entain and its subsidiaries. Here with me today from the company, we have Barry Gibson, the chair of the board, Stella David, the interim CEO, Rob Wood, the CFO, Simon Zinger, the group general counsel, and Sadie Benz, the chief product and technology officer. We also have present, but who don't plan to speak in the audience here, David Satz, who's an independent director, and in the audience in Carson City, Dennis Nylander, who is the chair of their Nevada Gaming Compliance Committee. I know the commissioners have had an opportunity to either watch the board meeting or review the transcript. So if it's acceptable to the chair, we would like to provide just an abbreviated presentation for you today.
It is. Thank
you very much. We've distributed a slide deck for you. We ask that be treated as confidential and not be made part of the public record today. I will give you a brief overview and then I will turn it over to the company. As the commission is aware, the company was first licensed in 2019 as then GVC Holdings for a 2-year period. It was then licensed again in 2021 for a 3-year period. The primary reasons for the limitation at that time were first, that the board agents did not have an opportunity to travel and complete their investigation because of the pandemic. Second, because there were certain historical or legacy matters to be resolved, including the HMRC investigation. Third was the company's operations in so-called gray markets. And the fourth was to allow the company the opportunity to proceed and operate under its new and improved compliance program and policies and procedures. As you heard from the board meeting and will hear again today, the company has met all of those items or surpassed them. In particular, we think that you will see that the company has an extremely strong commitment to compliance and always works to do the right thing that they feel is appropriate. With that, I would like to turn it over to Mr. Gibson, and he will start the presentation for you. Thank you, Mr. Gibson.
Madam Chair, Commissioners, good morning. It's a pleasure to be with you here today. The 5 years of this journey that the company has been on have been really the mark of my tenure as the chairman. I joined the company just after that very first application in 2019. And when I was joining the company, I was told just how important Nevada was. It was the gold standard of gambling licenses around the world. And that for us, it was an absolute imperative to get our house in order, to bring the company up to a standard that we would get a full license in the fullness of time. 2021, we were in the middle of the pandemic. We couldn't come and see you personally. We wanted to be here personally today to reassure you that we've been on this journey and what the outcome of that is. We've put an enormous emphasis on sustainability, talent, looking after our customers, making sure that we work constructively with regulators. And you and fellow regulators around the world have been very helpful in helping us to design and develop the programs that we've implemented. We have accelerated our removing our business from unregulated territories around the world. Some 140 different countries that we used to trade in, we no longer trade in. They came at a big price. We lost £100 million worth of profit by pulling out of it. But you can't really judge profit against doing the right thing. And my board colleagues supported the proposal that if we said we were going to do the right thing, we had to do the right thing. If that meant exiting profitable markets, and that's what we should do. And we've done that. And now some 95% of our revenues come from regulated markets or markets that are about to regulate. So Brazil, for example, is the really only big market still in. It is on the path to regulation. Government has passed the laws, and the Gambling Commission now is in the process of awarding licenses. And so fundamentally, we've exited all of those markets. We've completely changed our board of directors and our managers. I myself will be retiring later this summer, despite my namesake, Barry Diller, who's a good colleague and friend of mine. We laugh and joke about it. I'm nearly 73, and it's time that I kind of recognize that we've got some young and talented people around the organization, and I should move on from that. So for me, getting to this license position is a really important personal milestone. I know that my colleagues, executive and non-executive, wholly support the notion, looking after our customers, working with regulators, only being in regulated markets, doing the right thing, working with communities and doing the job in the right kind of way is the only way of doing it. And that's what we're committed to do. And talking about our customers, player safety is something that we all are concerned about. We need to make sure that we use technology and our brains to try and help customers. And some of them do get into difficulty with gambling. There's gambling addiction. Clearly, it's an illness, and it's recognized by people around the world. We spend a lot of money in working to find ways of using the technology we've got in our people to help customers who get into difficulty. The job will never be done completely, but we've made substantial progress, and I hope that you will endorse the recommendation from your colleagues who listened patiently to the full presentation a couple of weeks ago. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. We will now have Ms. David come up.
Good morning, Madam Chair, Commissioners. Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak to you today. My name is Stella David, and I am the interim CEO of Entain. I'm just going to give a short talk today about some of the points which hopefully you saw in the presentation that we gave to you. First of all, our values. We have 4 core values: do what's right, go beyond, win together, and keep it simple. And of those values, do what is right is a really important part of our mantra internally. Customers need to be first. We need to make sure we have an environment where people feel that they belong, they can act with integrity, and most importantly, if something's not right, they can speak up. And that is supported by the tone from the top, and that starts with me. We have mandatory compliance training for all employees in the organization, and if an individual does not complete all of the modules of mandatory training, they are not eligible for a bonus. And I'm very pleased to say that in 2023, over 95% of all employees in the company completed all of the modules for mandatory training. We also, in our strategy as a company, pull out specifically governance as being a key enabler. It is the cornerstone of how we do business. Moving on now to the US. The US is a very important part of our business at Entain. We have in BetMGM a 50-50 joint venture that we do with our partners MGM. We also own Stadium Technology Group, which is headquartered here in Las Vegas. And finally, I want to reference our Sustainability and Compliance Committee. This is a key committee that reports directly to the board, and it focuses in on key areas such as player protection, building an inclusive culture, and supporting our communities. And as examples of our commitment to doing the right thing, I'd just like to draw out a few of the initiatives we do in the area of DE&I. Activities such as Pride at Entain, Well Me, Women at Entain, and Black professionals at Entain. These all matter to me, and they matter to the company. So with that, I would like to finish my short introduction to the company, take any questions if you'd like to give them, but if not, I would like to hand over to Simon Zinger.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning, Chair Tagliati. Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Simon Zinger. I am the General Counsel at Entain. And I'd like to speak with you, please, about our regulatory and compliance enhancements since the last time the company was here, last time you interacted with the company for the licensing in 2021. Tell you a little bit about how Entain has gotten on with its revised policies and procedures and all of the changes that we've implemented. This will, as Ms. Ockerberg mentioned, will be an abridged version of the presentation that was given to the board, but I'm obviously very happy to answer any additional questions that you might have for me. So if I can just point you to slide 23 in the pack, please. And as you've heard from us this morning, we have been and continue to be in a process of continuous improvement, transforming and enhancing the company's governance and compliance efforts and aiming to go above and beyond where we can. On this slide 23, you can see the key areas of improvement since 2021, all planned and executed in a very purposeful manner and always strongly supported, encouraged, and embraced by the company and our board. So at the top of the slide, we begin with people and teams. Transforming our teams with people who have the talent, skill set to make a positive impact, and leading them as part of a cohesive and collaborative global team that works to the highest standards. Underpinning our teams, strategies, KPIs, and ways of working, which all support the company's wider objectives that Ms. David touched on. We also focus on continuing to refine, enhance, and centralize our compliance framework, including investing in ethics and compliance and AML, which I will touch on in a moment. We are using more technology to enhance our work. We are increasing second-line defense assurance teams inside of our functions. We are continuously improving risk management practices with regular workshops, dashboards, and risk assessments. We are enhancing our own team's engagement and satisfaction, offering initiatives around pro bono and DE&I, while emphasizing wellness and professional development for our team members. Next, I would just like to point to slides 26 to 29, and these show a chronology of key improvements and successes since 2021 across people, governance, processes, procedures, and many other areas. You can see how active we've been in that time frame. I won't cover the detail, but I would highlight that this is only a high-level overview of what we're doing. There's more planned in 2024 and beyond. On slide 30 of the pack, we focus on regulatory compliance. This references our central team, which manages and oversees our licenses, interacts with gambling regulators, and sets standards for consistency and best practice across the group. We also have specialized local licensing teams in certain countries, but we all work together under our governance team framework. Our team is growing in numbers and continues to adopt best practices. The next page, slide 31. This slide focuses on ethics and compliance. This is an area of compliance that is outside the licensing and gambling regulation area that was not presented by the company to the commission or the board in 2021, but an area that we have grown significantly. It is critical to our progress and was examined extensively as part of our Deferred Prosecution Agreement, DPA, resolution and approval process. Slides 32 and 33 relate to the group's AML program. This team has a new leader in place since March 2023, who has organized efforts across 3 distinct components: framework of the program itself, better oversight, and better engagement. These efforts drive continuous enhancements, new ways of working, and improved mechanisms for managing risk. You can see some of the key initiatives on slide 33. And these standards and building blocks are important as we continue to raise the bar and tackle remedial matters such as the OSTRAC investigation that we have in Australia. I would also like to mention a few words about slide 37, which discusses the approval of the DPA in December 2023, reflecting a chapter in our company's history that is now behind us. And with the court approving the DPA to be in the public interest, we saw the court acknowledging Entain's exemplary cooperation, recognizing the wholesale change in our senior management, and validating our approach to culture and compliance practices. And finally, to slides 42 and 44. On slide 42, we cover our commitment to responsible gambling, or RG, which is a key part of our sustainability strategy. We presented before on our various initiatives, such as the ARC technology tool. Barry alluded to this. And this slide shows that we underpin our commitment to player safety by including RG as a group bonus metric so that we are all aligned inside the company. We did this in a slightly different way across 2023 and 2024. First, focusing on the technology and the international rollout of our tool. And then now in 2024, pivoting to meaningful training and raising awareness across our employee base. And finally, slide 44. This reflects something wider: our commitment to regulated markets, how we work with regulators, how we comply with our regulations. This is how we describe our efforts and key principles to employees, our key leaders, regulators, and other stakeholders. We operate only in regulated or regulating markets. We are committed to being constructive, responsible, helpful, and transparent in our relationships with regulators. We always comply with in-market regulations, and we should always lead in our local markets around the areas of responsible gambling. This reflects our many efforts to date and our path forward. That will be the end of my presentation. I'll hand back to Ms. Zuckerberg, or I'd be very happy to answer questions.
Thank you. Do any of my fellow commissioners have any questions about the presentation or any of our presenters thus far from Commissioner Krolicki?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Zinger, good morning. What a fascinating story you have. I mean, I won't be, we can speak up you personally later, but I appreciate your journey. But the conversation you had with the folks on the Gaming Control Board was extensive, informative, perhaps exhaustive, but the, you know, from regulated to regulating, new verb for me, and non-regulated. I thought that was incredibly informative. But you made a couple affirmations during that, including that those that are regulating but don't successfully conclude that process into regulation within 12 months, Entain will exit that market. Correct?
That's correct, Commissioner. And that's a firm commitment that we have written into the Deferred Prosecution Agreement. We have a period of 12 months from December of 2023 for regulation to actually take place and for those markets to be regulated. And as you've said, if it doesn't happen, we have an opportunity to then discuss with the CPS the reasons why a delay may have occurred. And sometimes that may be a legitimate delay where you may have legislation pending, you may have debate amongst politicians. And so things do get delayed. We've seen this in Brazil, for example. But 12 months is very much the objective in getting all of that type of thing sorted. And we feel strongly that, at least in terms of the biggest market, as Mr. Gibson alluded to, the biggest market that is still pending as in the process of regulating, being Brazil, it is very much on the way there. And we expect that regulation and the licensing framework to be in place in about Q3 of this year. So that's well within the 12 months.
And be careful, you have several recovering political types up here, but we take your comments well. Again, the control board did an outstanding job talking about the journey you have all taken. This is like a case book study on how to put on governance and compliance and ethic issues, and it's really impressive. And I think there are 120 people doing this company wide, but it's exquisitely deployed. I know it wasn't inexpensive, and obviously opportunities lost are significant, but the tone at the top, as we've already heard from our retiring chairman, I think that's all spot on. One of the questions in the book, PwC, I think, just completed a review of certain compliance issues and other matters. As hefty as your product has been in the last few years in that area, could you, if it's not confidential, talk about some of the findings of the PwC review, please?
Of course, Commissioner. So the PwC report was something that was requested from us by the CPS. So it's part of us entering into the DPA. It was a way in which the CPS was able to get a level of independent assurance over the program. I think what was very positive about the work and the report of PwC was how extensive the work was. So it included both a review of documentation, a review of policies, procedures, what we have on our systems in terms of we train people, how we engage with employees. There were also quite a few interviews with people at various levels across various departments. So quite an extensive piece of work. At the end of it, I'd have to say I was quite pleased with the outcome in the sense that there were a few priority recommendations, but they were in areas that weren't surprises for us. So, for example, there was a priority recommendation in the area of how to work with suppliers. So are we as a company doing enhanced due diligence on suppliers that could be of a higher risk? Now, we already have a process for how we look at suppliers, and it's especially extensive in the area of payments. But your run-of-the-mill supplier, they do go through a process right now. We do enhanced due diligence. But what PwC was saying is that it's not an automated global process, for every supplier that we deal with. So we do have areas of improvement. There are things that we can enhance and can do better. Suppliers is one of the key areas.
Who is Entain's outside auditor for?
KPMG. So
KPMG. So those findings have been forwarded to KPMG.
Yes.
And if they, if they're, I'll call them material weaknesses, just because that's a vocabulary. They're aware of those, and they will be digested by KPMG and will be reflected as material weaknesses or areas of where the company will need to engage further. Correct?
Yes, absolutely, Commissioner. And what we've done since the report, not only have we shared it with certain regulators, including Nevada, and obviously we'll update you when we come to the point of updating the CPS. Because we do have to update the CPS and the progress that we've made in putting in place the recommendations. The other thing is it's been through the board, it's been through our audit committee, it's been through our compliance committee. We have a project management team that's now working through it. We have sponsors. We've organized very, very quickly to look at the things that need to be fixed. And I'm very confident that, as this year progresses, we have full support from the board and the management team as well. These are things we'll just go down the list and take care of.
And again, it's one thing to have rules. You need the competent people to do this, and to have people like Mr. Nylander and others engaged actively in chairing these compliance committees. Just well done. I applaud the effort, and the progress is exceedingly well noted here today, at least by this commissioner.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, before we move to our next speaker, or comments, any other questions or comments at this time? Otherwise, I'll have Ms. Okerberg move on. Okay, thank you.
At this point, we didn't have any further comments for the company presentation. There are 3 individual applicants on the agenda today, 2 of whom have previously been reviewed and licensed by the board and commission. One, Mr. Zinger, is a first-time applicant, and he spoke about his background at the board. I'm happy to have them come up and give their background if you'd like.
Sure.
All right, perfect. We'll go ahead and we'll get started with Simon Zinger just because he was just up here.
Welcome back.
Thank you, Chair Tagliati. Thank you, commissioners. Simon Zinger, I'm back in front of you as the Entain General Counsel. Would you like, I'll do a quick overview of my background. Yeah. I joined Entain just over 3 years ago. I'm new to the industry. I have been working as a lawyer across a number of different industries, from media to telecom to environmental services. You know, some industries more regulated, some less regulated. I joined Entain working in a company in London, a Japanese company actually. Before that, I was based in Paris as in-house counsel for a French company. And I started a legal career in San Francisco working with Baker McKenzie as an attorney in California. Before that, I was in Canada where I did my undergraduate studies. I grew up in Canada. I did my military service in the Army Reserve during university, Canada as well. And it's nearly 30 years now as a practicing attorney. Maybe one more thing at Entain as General Counsel. When I started, I oversaw the legal and compliance teams primarily. And in mid-2023, I was given additional responsibilities. So I now oversee legal compliance. That includes regulatory compliance and ethics and compliance, as we discussed. It includes the commercial legal team. So we help the company across all of its procurement efforts. I oversee the data protection team. We have an integration team as well that helps us with M&A integration and looks after deliverables when we do make commitments on M&A integration, and the risk management and health and safety teams. That's essentially the extent of my remit.
Thank you. We appreciate that and getting to meet you. I'll open it up for any questions about your background or comments, since this is his first time. I'll start with Commissioner Marcantonis.
Well, thank you, Mr. Zinger, and very good to hear from all of you. And certainly, I was caught from the very beginning in your phrase of the tone from the top, which I know even Commissioner Kralicki mentioned. That in many cases is when you don't have that when companies go sideways. And we have seen too much of that. I am a very strong believer that the tone from the top has to be one way. Leading from the front is exactly what I'm hearing from all of you. And that's so impressive. I'm also very impressed that the metrics for the bonus system are tied into that, because that is a tone from the top, quite frankly, and it also penalizes if you don't get the message. So I'm very impressed with what I've heard thus far about what you all have done to put this together. Well done. Thank you.
Commissioner Solis-Rainey.
Mr. Zinger, thank you for your presentation. You did a great job during the board presentation as well, and it answered a lot of my questions. I was here, a couple of years ago when you obtained the limited license, and you've made great strides. A lot of them, are tied to requirements of the DPA. I don't have any reason to believe that now that those processes are in place, they are not going to continue beyond the life of the requirements the DPA set. So I'm very impressed with just all of the improvements and the resources we put in there. And that would be my only, I guess, cautionary comment is, don't let that fall through the cracks once those requirements are not in place, because it's an easy place for companies to cut corners, but obviously the price can be very high, as you've seen at, having gone through this process. So I just urge you to keep those processes in place and keep the mentality of compliance alive and well. And I think you're going to do great things going forward.
Absolutely. Thank you, Commissioner.
Commissioner Silver?
Thank you. I also watched the very extensive presentation from the board, and I would congratulate the company for following through and making those changes from the top to the bottom and showing that you really are that different company, as you said during the presentation. And so I'm very pleased to support also based on your changes in compliance as well.
Commissioner Krolicki?
Thank you, Chair Tagliati. As I alluded to before, what a fascinating story you have. And few people have exuberance at compliance and governance. So you actually do. And we'll use the term 3 times, the tone at the top, to reward that area, especially, from where you've been to where you want to go. That's not a revenue generator. Perhaps it's a money saver ultimately, but I get that. 2 superficial questions. For a man who was born in then the Soviet Union and made this journey around the globe before ending up in the Western United States, your English, American English, is perfect, better than mine without accent. Your language skill is quite impressive. So I don't know where you learned it, but I would love to hear your language background here.
No, Commissioner, if there's any subtle twists in my English, blame it on the province of Quebec.
Yeah.
Which
so you're a French speaker as well.
French, yeah. So we were very young when we were able to basically flee the Soviet Union, and I was 5 years old when we arrived in Canada, and so I grew up with English and French in Montreal, and that allowed me to then take the opportunity to work in France and then travel around Europe a little bit with work.
It's just fascinating. And with indulgence, Chair Hendrick forgot to ask you a question when you're in front of the Gaming Control Board. Since you spent time in Canada, are you a curler?
Commissioner, I'm not.
Oh, that's the only blemish on
I'm
your
so
record
sorry.
here.
That's the one. No, but like every Canadian, I do enjoy hockey.
There you go. It's a nice sport. There you go. But
Just as a courtesy to our new commissioner, I'll just tell her that Commissioner Krolicki is obsessed with curling. And he talks about it at every meeting, at anyone who knows anything about it.
And there's Curl Vegas. Vegas Curl just opened, a few weeks ago, 4 sheets of ice. If you've never thrown a stone, the roaring sport awaits you in Las Vegas. Who would have thought? Cheers. But
Thanks, Commissioner. No.
Wholeheartedly endorse your application.
Yes. Sure. I'm sorry. Just a point of curiosity, you have 2 United Kingdom passports. Do they have a process to actually get 2 passports at the same time with different numbers?
Yes, Commissioner. Yeah.
Okay.
So there is an approval process.
So when you submit the second application, is it noted as a second application?
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely. Yeah. So they do allow it for people who transit across certain countries where visas could be problematic. So it just will travel. There's also a little kind of issue with living in Gibraltar, as I do right now, where because of Brexit, you do have to cross the Spanish border, and each time you cross into Europe, which was previously an issue, your passport gets stamped every day in and out. So the first passport gets used up quite quickly, and therefore they've allowed people to have a second passport as a backup.
Yeah, I thought that was really interesting. I don't.
We don't have that option.
I didn't think we had that option.
My
I think they
passport's at the passport office right now waiting, so I can't cross an ocean for another 4 weeks.
Yeah.
That's hard for him. He likes to travel a lot. No, I was just curious about the process. I thought it was interesting because here I don't believe that's an option. I think if we applied a second time, they would see that we had an active one and we would just get the same one.
No, the UK does allow it, and it is actually an application for a second passport. So it is a specific document, and you do have to provide a letter explaining
why you need
you're
it.
asking.
Perfect. No, thank you so much for satisfying my curiosity.
Thank you for being here today and for your thorough presentation and your introduction to us. We always appreciate getting to meet everyone in person. And so I have no problems at all supporting your individual application. And so I will go ahead and just have you, because you were this is your first appearance before the commission. It's usually a little more rigorous as far as a meet and greet. So thank you for being here.
Chair Tagliati. Thank you.
Thank you.
If you would like, we can now ask Mr. Wood to come up and give you a little bit about himself, or if you'd like, I can turn to my concluding remarks.
I'll just ask my fellow commissioners, do you have any questions or comments? Yeah, I mean, if anybody else has any questions for the individuals, otherwise we can move to the concluding remarks. Go ahead.
All right, thank you very much. As you have seen and heard today and at the board meeting, the company has taken great strides, not only to move past some of the historical issues, but to find additional ways to actually accept responsibility for them, lean into them, and find ways to learn and grow from them. The company has a wonderful compliance program that's built to evolve and grow over time. They have a wonderful management team that's very experienced, knowledgeable, and well-respected, and they continue to be lauded for their efforts in community involvement and responsible gaming. For these reasons, we would respectfully request the Commission's approval of these applications. And I would note just for the record that we have reviewed draft number 1 of the 5th revised order of registration, which is dated April 15th, and we believe that's in proper form. Thank you.
All right, thank you. So if there are no questions or comments at this time, in light of the presentation and all the record that we have before us, does anyone have a motion?
Madam Chair.
Well, we just talked about, because the other two have been before us previously.
No, I'm good.
Okay. Does anyone have a motion?
Yeah, Madam Chair, I'm happy to make a motion for approval of non-restricted item number 2 as read into the record by Madam Secretary and is recommended by the Gaming Control Board pursuant to draft number 1 dated April 15th, 2024.
Do we have any discussion on the motion? There being none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And I believe there are none opposed. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for being here. Thank you.
Congratulations.
We appreciate your appearances today. Thank you. At this time, before I ask Madam Secretary to read in non-restricted number 3, can we check with our court reporter?
Yes, thank you. Let's continue to non-restricted 3.
Okay. Madam Secretary, could you please read in non-restricted number 3?
Non-restricted number 3 is the application of Entain PLC for a continuous or delayed public offering. It is also the application of Win.Party USA Inc. to guarantee securities and hypothecate assets in conjunction with a continuous or delayed offering. The recommendation of the Gaming Control Board is for approval.
Good morning again,
Morning.
Chair Tagliati, Commissioners, Madam Secretary. I am Erica Okerberg, appearing on behalf of Entain on their shelf application. If I could, I would ask that we incorporate by reference the discussion on the last item. And as to the shelf in particular, I would like to note that the company is in compliance with Regulation 16.115. They have a class of securities on the London Stock Exchange with at least 10 million in shareholder equity, and they have and will continue to file the required reports. There are no immediate plans to use the shelf, and we have reviewed draft number 1 of the shelf order, which is dated April 15th, and we believe that is in proper form.
Thank you. I think it's very straightforward, but if there's any questions or comments before we call for a motion, there being none, does anyone wish to make a motion at this time?
Madam Chair, I move for approval of non-restricted item number 3 is read into the record by Madam Secretary and is recommended by the Gaming Control Board. And that is pursuant to draft number 1 dated April 15, 2020.
Any discussion on the motion? There being none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And there are none opposed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Madam Secretary, could you please read in non-restricted number 4?
Non-restricted number 4 are the applications of Excel Entertainment Inc. registration as a publicly traded corporation, finding of suitability as sole member and manager of Excel Entertainment PLC, and for an amendment to their order of registration. It is also the applications of Excel Entertainment LLC for registration as an intermediary company for acquisition and control of Century Gaming Inc. and finding of suitability as sole shareholder of Century Gaming Inc. You also have the application of Andrew Rubenstein and Carl Peterson for finding of suitability and licensure as an officer and director as noted on the agenda. The recommendation of the Gaming Control Board is for approval.
Good morning once again, Chair Tagliati, Commissioners, Madam Secretary. I am Erica Okerberg. I'm Nevada Gaming Counsel to Excel Entertainment. Here with me today in the audience, and that will appear, we have Andy Rubenstein, the CEO, Matt Ellis, the CFO, Derek Harmer, the General Counsel and Chief Compliance Officer. And then via Zoom, we have Carl Peterson, the Chair of the Board. Chair Tagliati, we thank you for allowing him to appear via Zoom so he could attend another company's meeting, which is out of the country. So thank you for that. Also present in the audience in Carson City, but who doesn't plan to speak, is Excel's Compliance Committee Chair, Dennis Nylander. Again, I know the commissioners have had an opportunity to watch the board meeting or review the transcript. So if it's acceptable to the chair, we would like to provide an abbreviated presentation for you today.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much. We have distributed a slide deck. We ask that that be treated as confidential and not be made part of the public record. To give you a brief overview on this item, Excel previously was approved in May 2022 for a 2-year limited license. At the time, the board and the commission discussed a few reasons for the limitation. The primary reasons were to allow the company time to improve its overall compliance program, to add or improve certain policies and procedures, to address vendor diligence, and also so that they could address certain compliance and regulatory outstanding matters. As you will hear from the presentation today, each of those items has been addressed, and they've also done more. In particular, the company sought to address each item that the board members and the commissioners raised at the meeting, and then to go above and beyond and identify additional ways to improve their overall program and policies and procedures. At this time, I will turn it over to the company to walk you through those. If I could, we will start with Mr. Peterson via Zoom.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, Chair Tagliati, Commissioners. I'm Carl Peterson. I'm the Chairman of the Board of Excel. I appreciate the opportunity to address you all today, and I also would like to extend my gratitude for allowing me to do this remotely so I could discharge my duties to another board that has me in Holland at the moment. 2 years ago, I think it was May 2022, Excel and I pledged to the commission that we would make certain changes in how we operated the company, in particular, as Erica mentioned, in the areas of diligence, compliance, and oversight. I'm proud about the results we've seen from those changes, and Excel is unquestionably a better company today for those efforts. I speak for the entire board when I reiterate our commitment at all levels of this organization to make any necessary investment to deliver on this commitment, as well as to maintain proper oversight. We're mindful that this commitment requires a mindset of continuous improvement and vigilance, and that doesn't stop with today's hearing. We have given management our full support to ensure we meet or exceed Nevada's high standards for licensed gaming companies. And quickly, I'll just summarize a couple of the key things that we did to sort of double down on compliance to meet the goal that we set for ourselves 2 years ago. First thing we did was assembled a best-in-class compliance committee. We also have Chair Nylander, Debbie Fuchs, and Dee Robinson, who's on our public company board, also sit on that committee, given her experience in the Illinois Gaming Board. And then other things that we've done is we have regular quarterly updates from the compliance committee to the full board. We participated in understanding the broader training program that we sent the team to at UNLV, worked on the compliance plan, and then we restructured a legacy committee that we had at our board for the compliance committee and then moving it to this best in practice outside led effort with Chairman Nylander. We had him address our full board, and I was proud when he said that everything that the committee had suggested or recommended had been unanimously agreed with by management, but also successfully implemented. So I think our collective efforts really demonstrate that our board and our company is fully committed to meeting your standards as a licensee. We understand it's a privilege, and we thank you for the opportunity to be here today. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions now. I think you'll have the opportunity to ask any of me later, but otherwise I'd ask Andy to come up, our CEO.
Does anyone have any questions at this time? Okay, we'll have
Mr. Rubenstein come up.
Morning.
Good morning, Chair Tagliati, Commissioners. I'm Andy Rubenstein, President, CEO, and founder of Excel Entertainment, as well as a member of the Board of Directors. Thank you for the opportunity to present to you today. I want to echo Carl's comments that the board has been fully engaged and supportive of management's efforts to enhance our compliance program and implement it successfully. Mr. Harmer will further detail how we have doubled down on the compliance during his section of the presentation, but I would like to share a brief overview of a few of these points. If you would turn to slide 7 of our deck, I would like to revisit the commitments that we made to you in May of 2022. We were committed and have effectively implemented a best-in-class compliance program. We've become a model licensee. We wanted to be viewed as a responsible corporate citizen, become a valuable partner of the state of Nevada, and continue Century's legacy of performance. I'm proud to state to you and stand here today that we have followed through on all of our commitments. If you could look at slide 8 of the deck, I wanted to highlight that we've also placed our focus on what we have achieved during this time period. We continue to promote our company-wide policy and culture of compliance. We have an open door policy for all the compliance related matters, and see something, say something has become cultural for us. And always staying true to our core values, being careful, being caring, accountable, respectful, and driven to each other, to our regulators, and our establishment partners. Looking on slide 12, giving back has always been an important part of our culture. And in that, we have a community support fund. Since 2020, we have donated over $1.5 million to different charitable organizations throughout the United States. Last year, specifically in Nevada, we were presenting sponsors on the Creech and Nellis Air Force bases. We were there Tuesday night this week, also as the presenting sponsor. We've been actively involved in global gaming with women, big brothers and big sisters, and we are committed to providing this support for years to come. Additionally, beginning this year, we made a 5-year commitment to support Opportunity Village. Happy to answer any more questions about these commitments. Otherwise, I will be turning it over to Matt Ellis, our CFO.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions this time? Otherwise, thank you very much. If you could.
Thank you.
Good morning, Chair Tagliati, Commissioners, Madam Secretary. I'm Matt Ellis, and I would like to briefly give you an update on our financials. If you could quickly turn to page 15 of the presentation, we have our balance sheet here today. We're proud to be disciplined stewards of capital. We have among one of the lowest leverage ratios in the industry, and our bank and our credit facility is supported by 18 well-capitalized banks. We do not foresee a problem continuing that facility in the future. Jumping ahead to slide 17, 2 years ago before the commission, we had 3 material weaknesses. We were asked whether those would be remediated by the time we came back. We said it was an important goal of ours, and I'm pleased to report that as of February of this year, all material weaknesses have been remediated. Implicit in that, Century has been integrated into our culture, into our back office to achieve that remediation beyond one system. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have. Otherwise, I will turn it over to Derek Harmer, our General Counsel.
Questions, Commissioner Krolicki or Solis Rainey?
Not really a question, but an observation. Thank you, Madam Chair. You keep an extraordinary amount of cash on your balance sheet.
That relates to the cash at our locations to pay customers on tickets.
Okay, so that's just formulaic. It just seems excessive.
I I'd love to keep it down, but at the same time, there's nothing worse than when a player redeems a ticket and we don't have cash at the local establishment to pay out.
All right, thank you.
Anyone else have any questions or comments? Thank you.
All right, we will have Derek Harmer come up now.
Good morning.
Morning, Chair Tagliati, commissioners, Madam Secretary, members of the board. Appreciate being able to be here before you and present what I consider to be a pretty exciting and passionate area of our business that I've come to be quite excited about. And following Simon is a bit of a stretch, but I think I can show some exuberance and some passion for the things that we've done at Excel that I think are pretty exciting. And so we want to come here and first point out making good on our commitments, right? And so I sat before this commission, and Commissioner Solis Rainey and Commissioner Tagliati were here, and I made some commitments that I intended to follow through with back in May of 22, and I want to tell you today that we have done that, and we have done more to show you that our desire to be a gold standard licensee was true and was meaningful when we said it, and that we took deliberate and intentional actions to be able to follow through on that. So if you could please go to slide 19, I'd like to just go through some of the highlights of things that we told you we were going to do and then what we actually did. And I think we can skip over the creating a best-in-class compliance committee. I think our board chair and Andy have demonstrated that by any stretch of anybody's measurement, we have an A-list of compliance committee members, and happy to have them. They've been great instructors and mentors to me in helping us build out a plan and build out a company that needed some recalibration. We conducted a comprehensive corporate and public policy review under the watchful eye of Sandra Douglas Morgan and her firm at Covington and Burling to review all of our company policies and incorporated all suggested edits that they made. We implemented a company-wide information governance policy for managing email and documentation going forward. We've also completed compliance training for senior leadership and its key stakeholders, both in legal, finance, and HR, and at Excel and at Century. So we spent a full day at the UNLV's Center for Gaming Regulation and brought people in for a full day's training to sort of understand what it takes to build out a compliance program that would be necessary for us to meet the standards here in Nevada, and also ensured that our board of directors had access to those materials and they were educated on them as well. We established new policies and standards of procedure for conducting diligence on new vendors and created a business information form that all new proposed vendors must complete prior to engaging with the business. We've also used the Thomson Reuters system through Clear to do initial diligence on people when they come through and become potential business partners of the company. We've also implemented a policy by which I am made aware of any potential suitability issues under our compliance plan. We review certain potential suitability concerns to the compliance committee and outside counsel. And there's a couple of examples that are in your materials where we have disassociated or moved away from potential business partners that were not good for the business or our industry. We've had an intense focus on enhanced training. We've created a more robust annual workplace harassment training program, including new modules for bystanders and supervisors. Our previous program, was about 45 minutes long, and every employee was to complete it on an annual basis. This year's program and the year before, the program takes about 3 hours. And similar to MGM, if the Entain group, if employees do not complete the training, they are not eligible for bonuses. We also reinforced and amplified the see something, say something policy by creating compliance tools and incorporating code of conduct training for all of our quarterly town hall meetings in 2023. And lastly, on the area of suitability, we added clause to all new agreements that provides the company an opportunity to exit the relationship without further force or effect or liability should there be extensive circumstances that require us to decide, are we putting ourselves in jeopardy? Is the company's reputation going to be put in harm's way? Or are we putting ourselves in a position of jeopardizing one of our gaming licenses? And then lastly, on the matter of outstanding litigation and other regulatory matters, the matter with the IGB was settled back in May of 2023. And we had outstanding litigation that was becoming a distraction for the company, not good for our industry. that we also settled in June of 2023. And the last slide, Andy already touched on, but we've been very active in supporting the local Nevada opportunities with our Excel Community Support Fund, and we continue to do that going forward. You can move to slide 24. It just talks about some further enhancements to compliance that we did above and beyond our commitments made in furtherance of our commitments to you and to the board, that we were going to recalibrate and retool our compliance efforts to be best in class standard. So we've created new policies for location diligence, periodic rechecks for vendors and locations, and we completed a look back of all of our locations and vendors outside of Nevada. We did over 4,000 due diligence reviews for locations, and we completed over 800 compliance assessment reports for new vendors, nonprofits, lobbyists, acquisition targets, partners, and real estate brokers. And that system goes across the entire company and all the jurisdictions which we operate. That concludes the bulk of my presentation. I want to thank you for the opportunity to come before you today and explain and talk about some things we've been doing. Very proud of our efforts. We understand it is a continuous improvement process for us, and we by no means feel like we are done by just showing up here today. Built processes and plans that are sustainable. We have a committee that's a fantastic guides for operations, for management. We have a very supportive board. And so I think we have all the ingredients to be a model corporate citizen and a gold standard licensee here in the state of Nevada.
Thank you. Do any of my colleagues have any questions? Commissioner Solis Rainey?
Thank you for being here, Mr. Harmer.
Yes.
And I want to commend the company on the improvements. We, obviously listened to the extensive presentations you made before the board, but also closely reviewed the materials. I especially appreciate that you've used so many of the resources that Nevada has to offer, and not only in the composition of your committees, but also in using the resources at UNLV to develop your training and such. But I did have a specific question on the last comment that you made with respect to the look back of the all locations. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Sure. So our look back policy is a due diligence policy that we have now for all new locations. So we applied that to locations that had not had diligence performed on them previous to our policy being implemented. So now we have a diligence program and diligence process for all new locations. And we took that and said, you know what, why don't we just go ahead and do it for all locations that were captured by that program prior to us implementing it. So we went back in every location that we have in other jurisdictions outside Nevada, because Century already has a diligence program that covers locations, back and did that same process, ran them through Clear, had them fill out business information forms, had them provide us information to ensure that we were conducting business with suitable partners. And then we ran that through and we gave all the results to our compliance committee. And so that we wanted to give you a catch up and get sort of straight and have a floor that every location that we have do business with in every jurisdiction has had a diligence check.
Brought basically everybody up to the same standard.
Correct.
If were any of the locations that you had previously been doing business with, did that cause you to disassociate with any of them?
It did for one of them, yes.
I saw that something in the materials about that, and I wasn't sure if that was a result of the look back
That was correct.
reviews. I don't have any further questions. Again, I think you've done a lot of work, and I hope that keeps up.
Thank you.
Commissioner Krolicki?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good afternoon. Very nice to see you. And again, kudos to the Gaming Control Board that had such a lengthy and thorough conversation with you all. Compliance is, I think, the word of the day. Needs to always be, but somehow we go in other directions and focus on different areas, but it's certainly this morning. And your challenge is going to be just the enhancements to compliance, your training, to have the discipline to do the things that you've pledged to do really on a daily basis. I do have several governance questions, if I might, and it's very good to see Chairman Peterson. I'm sorry you're not able to be in Las Vegas today. Disclosure, we have a common friend who we both just relish and enjoy. And, I had the pleasure of meeting Mr. Peterson recently, and I was impressed so much then, and even more so now in this context, to see all the things that you've done as chairman of this company. The two questions I have for governance are the Gaming Compliance Committee and the Board of Directors Compliance Committee. I know Ms. Robinson sits in both seats, but how do you work together? There's I don't want to say redundancy, but how is that separate committee integrated into the board governance structure?
So pleasure to see you again, Commissioner Krolicki. We actually got comments from, I think it was our case agent. I know they originated in the process and as part of our compliance plan. What we actually did is when we benchmarked best in class, it had kind of moved from when I was first aware of how this was a board level committee. We've actually disbanded our board level compliance committee. And
that makes sense now.
Yes. So the observation was the question came up, which is who's responsible for what? And we like the moving of all of it to the independents led under Chairman Nylander. They report out. They're not managed by, but they report out to the NOM.gov committee, which I chair, such that the board has both the ability to be aware and to monitor and ensure all key recommendations and actions are taking place, and that's part of our, effectively assessment of management every year for how are they doing in terms of progressing that ball. But it was an issue to start, no longer very clear, I believe, how we've moved it.
Thank you, Mr. Peters. That's tremendously helpful and it makes sense. You noted the same item. The other comment I would have, and you just mentioned the NOM.gov committee, which you also chair. I think you've made that assertion.
Correct.
When you have readouts, this was your conversation to the Gaming Control Board, it actually struck me as odd that the readouts went to NOM.gov, as I'm experienced in board activities, and not to the audit committee. Can you just explain why the readout goes to NOM.gov?
We had really two reasons. One, the audit committee agenda is typically our longest, and the NOM.gov had more capacity. Secondly, Dee Robinson sits on both, and it was just I think, an expedient and efficient way for us to do this. And candidly, I wanted to make sure we got it right, so I kind of liked it in my committee. We're opening to consider, again, this isn't set in stone if it becomes the right place over time for it to move to audit. But for those two reasons, we moved it to NOM.gov, the readouts there.
That's why audit committees meet longer and get paid more than the NOM.gov members.
Yeah,
because there is a burden, but I appreciate that. But it probably fits better in audit. But at least at this point in time, I get it. As long as it's being addressed and it all goes to the board anyway. And Mr. Peterson, I just want to congratulate you again. I mentioned that you made quite an impression on me when we met previously. Again, not in this context, but your TPG background and all of your skill sets and networking and professionalism to be brought into this opportunity, it chose wisely, and I think you're doing an exquisite job, and I can't let you go. We've already talked about the Notre Dame background, and that Judge Assad has that responsibly. Mine's curling, yours is sports and eating. But would you describe perhaps your swimming background for the commission so we can enjoy a different view of your skill sets?
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you for your kind words. My background is I grew up in South Bend, Indiana. My father was a professor for the Indiana University system. He was in the South Bend branch. So I always thought I was going to be a Hoosier, but I had a big growth spurt late in high school. So I took the opportunity to swim at Notre Dame, which was one of the better experiences of my life. And to sort of pay them back, I endowed the swim coach there, really supportive of the team, and hopefully we'll get our first Olympian swimming in Paris that also swims for the Fighting Irish. But as I retired from TPG recently, and with my free time, I am in training to leave your great state to end up on the beach in California by doing the Trans Tahoe Relay in July. So I got a team of 6 people. Well, I'm one of 6 to try to accomplish that feat again. Last year we did it in a little over 4 hours. Try to break the 4-hour barrier here for about an 11-mile swim.
Well, for the record, I have dispatched this message to many of my friends who have boats in Lake Tahoe to be on standby that day should they find someone floating in the frigid waters of Lake Tahoe as they try to traverse it. Good on you.
Yeah, well, thank you.
I'm fully supportive of the applicants in this matter. Thank you, sir.
I don't have anything further, but as the proud mom of a double domer, go Irish.
Awesome.
I can see the gold swim caps already.
Do you have any questions or comments from any of my fellow commissioners on this side? All right, thank you very much. We appreciate your appearance and information today.
Thank you.
Chair Tagliati, we had nothing further on the company presentation. There are two individuals on the agenda, Mr. Peterson and Mr. Rubenstein. Both actually were licensed in May of 2022, and it seems as a matter of course, their licenses may have been caught up and limited with the company, but there were no areas of concern or issues with them individually. So if you'd like, they can certainly come up and tell you a little bit about themselves, perhaps beyond the swimming. Otherwise, I'm happy to turn to the conclusion.
Do any of my fellow commissioners, in light of the previous appearances, have any questions or comments for either of the individuals? I don't think that will be necessary. We appreciate it.
Wonderful. Well, thank you very much. As you have heard and seen today and watched at the board meeting, the company has taken significant effort to find ways to improve. Their goal was not only to address the items that were raised by the board and the commissioners, but also to find additional ways to improve their processes, their procedures, and their overall approach to compliance. They have done that and they have done more. And they're also committed to continue to grow and evolve and find new ways to improve. With that, we respectfully request the Commission's approval of these applications. And I would note we have reviewed draft number 1 of the revised order, which is dated March 19th, and we believe that's in proper form. Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, if there are no other additional questions or comments, do any of my colleagues have a motion?
Madam Chair, I'm happy to make a motion for approval of non-restricted item number 4 as read into the record by Madam Secretary and is recommended by the Gaming Control Board.
Okay. Any discussion on the motion? There being none, all in favor, say aye. Aye. And there are none opposed. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Madam Secretary, I believe we'll do the next item and then we'll take a break. If that's okay with our court reporter, which I believe she was okay with that because we haven't heard differently. Thank you. If you could please read in non-restricted number 5.
Non-restricted number 5 is the application of Cynthia Murphy for licensure as a key employee at FP Holdings LP, doing business as Palms Casino Resort. The recommendation of the Gaming Control Board is for approval.
Good morning, Chair Tagliati, Commissioners, Madam Secretary, Erica Oakberg, appearing on behalf of the applicant. I am counsel to San Manuel Gaming and Hospitality Authority, Palms Casino Resort, and the applicant, Cindy Kaiser Murphy, who is the general manager of Palms Casino Resort. She has previously been licensed, but because it's been a little while, I thought maybe she could provide a little bit of her background and her duties and responsibilities for you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, Chair Tagliati and Commissioners. I'm honored and grateful to be here today. Very honored to have been selected by the Gaming Hospitality Authority of San Manuel to open the Palms 2 years and 18 days ago and a few hours. So we were very honored to bring 2,000 team members back to work, and almost 70 of them are day one employees. So it's bringing this beautiful resort back to Las Vegas has been a really, really important mission and goal. My experience, I am a UNLV grad, both undergrad and master's. I moved out here to study hotel management, thinking I would go see the world, and the Las Vegas community was becoming very vibrant. Resort corridor was developing, and I've had the privilege to open major resorts. I worked in food and beverage. I spent many years in human resources before taking over operations and serving as a property president and a number of other roles. Also worked to achieve gaming licenses in other jurisdictions, including Detroit and in Massachusetts. And that was really, really a gift to have that opportunity. Have spent many years also very active in the community, especially a lot of my volunteer and philanthropy work these days is around healthcare access and quality. And I've served as a trustee for Unite Here Health for over 25 years. And we've been building medical centers and working to improve quality and access for the people in our industry. Very proud of that. The Palms in the last 2 years and 18 days has really, really been working to bring not only locals, but also visitors and our San Manuel loyal customers to this amazing resort with a wide array of restaurant offerings, a vibrant gaming floor, and of course our Pearl Theater where we feature live entertainment. By the end of this year, we will have had 201 performances in Pearl Theater, and it's growing every day. It's been really, really exciting to bring that venue back. As well as a whole host of wonderful venues like Scotch 80 and many others. And we would, of course, we've been very happy to have the community support us. I am also very, very proud that GHA is extremely committed to the Las Vegas community and has already provided $4 million to local organizations. And we really support that with the team members with the Palms Cares program, where we're very active out volunteering in the community. The last thing I believe that I would mention and then open for questions is that we have been working hard to improve the West Flamingo corridor. There have been a number of issues, and we've had great cooperation from county, state, and other officials that have been very, very supportive of us cleaning up the neighborhood and creating maybe a little bit of pedestrian flow, as well as making the neighborhood beautiful and safe to welcome visitors. So with that, I would take any questions. And again, thank you so much for your time consideration.
Commissioner Markintonis.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Ms. Murphy, thank you for being here. You know, maybe for the benefit of some of my fellow commissioners, and without the intention to make you feel at all uncomfortable, but if you don't mind indulging me, that you have multiple achievements throughout your amazing career, which I followed for many years. There's one that doesn't appear on the documents. Yeah, it's so secret, even our investigations teams couldn't get to it. But about 101 years ago, right, in 1823, something called the Tavern Club was founded. And that was founded by the top hoteliers of the whole country. And it was by invitation only. And to be inducted, it required a secret, unanimous vote to be inducted. Almost as tough as trying to be the Pope, I guess. And 100 years ago, the celebration was, in fact, last year. But today, still kicking, there are 123 members. Every year there are some inductions. 10 who are ladies, because when it first was founded 100 years ago, I'm sure it was very much a good old boys club. There's a famous painting with the first 150 members, and they were all wearing pants and other stuff. But I'm proud when I say this for Ms. Murphy, is that she was inducted in 2015, one of two members that we have in this city, two ladies, one of only 10 that have ever had any gaming background, as well as their hospitality career. The way of getting nominated was for people who have done so much in their careers that have raised the standard of the entire hospitality industry in this country. So I had to throw that in. I'm very proud to know you and to know that fact about you, and you should be very proud of that. And I felt that you may all be very fascinated by this lady's achievements, and I will have no hesitation in supporting your application today.
Thank you, Commissioner Markintonis. The Tavern Club is really an honor because it's the great hoteliers of our country, and gaming entered that organization rather late, but we now have a place there, and it's fabulous to learn the best practices and get to interact with all the great hoteliers. Thank you.
Commissioner Silver.
I just want to say boo Fighting Irish and go Rebels. And I'm really happy to support your application, also being a UNLV graduate. And thank you for giving back to our community, especially the Alumni Association, the foundation, that you give so much to the students, paying it forward from what UNLV has done for you. I mean, look at where you are now. And so I just want to thank you for your dedication and also the selflessness that you've given to our community and all your charitable work as well. And I mean, your resume is impeccable. So I'm very happy to support this application as well.
Thank you, Commissioner Silver. UNLV clearly was life-changing, and we pay it forward. We have our next class of interns starting at the Palms next week. So we're super excited about that.
That's great. Thank you.
Commissioner Solis Rainey.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for being here. I too am equally impressed with your background. Thank you for all of your personal work on behalf of the community, for the Smith Center, the Hope Means Nevada, the UNLV Foundation, all of the work that you do. Personally, it shows your commitment not only to the community, but to great causes that are helping children, helping with healthcare, things that are so important to our community. But I also wanted to give a shout out to the San Manuel Tribal Group. They have made an impact. Everywhere I turn, I'm also an UNLV grad, and everywhere I turn, they're making an impact somewhere. So just the amount of their contributions alone shows the level of commitment they have to the community, and I'm very appreciative of that. I was a little curious to hear a little bit more about how the property is doing in terms of business. If you're seeing tourists, locals, I know you cater to both, but if you could elaborate a little bit more on how it's doing, that would be great.
Yes, thank you for your comments. We live in a very vibrant community, and it's because of everyone pulling together. And San Manuel has certainly come in with a very, very strong, sincere commitment. So thank you for your kind words. The property, we are a very unique property. We are just off the Strip, catering about half and half to locals and to visitors. We're very conveniently located. So for example, in situations like F1 or Super Bowl, we are located to where you're just minutes away from all the action, but not necessarily in some of the traffic. So we can get in and out, and we have beautiful, beautiful room product and amazing restaurants. So we've been able to build some loyal customers in that regard. We've been getting busier and busier every month. We've been building our reputation around the gaming floor, around entertainment, around food, and extremely excited. Reopening a property that had been closed for a few years, it took some time to build up, and getting a lot of large group events has also been very, very important to the Palms. So.
Thank you. It seemed like in the past it was marketed very much as a nightlife hotspot for the 21 to 30 crowd. You seem to have gotten away from that a little bit. Is that just my impression as I'm good?
Yes, we are really working towards a gaming centric customer. San Manuel has a very, very successful casino, Yamava, and a very loyal database. So welcoming them to Las Vegas. And I like to say that if you enjoyed it back when your ID was barely legal, now you're really going to like it. So that age group is now coming back and really enjoying, and we are pivoting our assets to deal to a little bit older crowd, but yet also still providing something for everyone.
No, the quality of your rooms, restaurants and stuff was always top notch. So I've always enjoyed the property. Thank you for that update. I appreciate it. In our materials, there was a report of your recent audit. It looks like all the issues were resolved, but there was a significant understatement of revenue. Do you know what the cause of that was?
Dan?
Yeah, I think we might have Dan Abel come up. He's the property general counsel, and he might be better suited to speak to that.
Yes, we've just been working to conclude that. Hold
I
on
was
just a
just
second.
curious about what the reason was and.
This is Dan Habel.
Good morning, everyone. Daniel Habel, H-A-B as in boy, E-L. I'm the Vice President and General Counsel of the Palms. To answer the question, largely it was a function of a personnel issue. The finance team has been completely rebuilt since the property reopened. So all those have been corrected through the guidance and leadership of our CFO, Chad Petroza.
And I'm assuming that since the response was deemed adequate, that also means that any revenue, any tax implications of that have been corrected.
That's correct. Yes.
Perfect. I appreciate it. I was just curious to the reason because it seemed like a big number for based on the other more minor violations.
Yes, understood.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
I don't have any other questions. For the applicant, Ms. Murphy, your background has been said is just impressive and you do a lot for your community and we're happy to have you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair. Ms. Murphy, it's so nice to meet you. I'm going to pile on. I can't let, just my other four colleagues say all the nice things. It's, not only, it's an extraordinary resume and we've learned a couple things about you today. We've also learned things about one of our commissioners, Mark Antonis. How do you decide which hotel to stay in and hospitality when you gather as an elite group? But the tasks that you've had in the gaming and hospitality world, it's high profile, it's high pressure, it's new product, it's almost existential. When you open up a new property, it's one thing to come in and manage something that, is evolving and changing, but it's there. You've got a team, you build things. So it's like, if you got a fire, you throw in Ms. Murphy and she'll take care of it. But that's just a stellar background. And I'm so impressed. And and we talk about it and not to diminish it, but the good works, the charitable stuff, the community stuff, yours is so authentic. It's from the heart, it's real, it's low profile, but you do it, and that's the best kind. So, I defer to Commissioners Mark and Antonis. We'll let him have the most elated support of your application today, but I'm a close second. Terribly impressed.
Thank you. Thank you for your kind words.
I echo the comments of my colleagues on your qualifications and obviously have intentions to support your application. I just have a quick question about your, in the materials that we have, it lists numerous board positions that you have. And I was curious, there's the, I'm not even sure if you use if you pronounce the acronym or there is an acronym, but the Welfare Fund and Unite Here Health.
Yes.
That's been a board that you've been on a very long time. And I was just curious, what caused you to be on that board? How much time does it take? It seems like there's been some litigation associated with it that it just completely seems to have nothing to do with gaming. So I was just curious how much.
We have 2 meetings a year of the National Fund, and then we have monthly meetings for Las Vegas. It was a board that was very important as we were working to improve healthcare access in Las Vegas, especially 25 years ago. Things have improved greatly, especially with our School of Medicine. The basic mission is to provide excellent benefits to the frontline employees, ladies and gentlemen, who serve our customers. And management trustees, it's a Taft-Hartley plan, and there's management and labor trustees, and we work together as the board of trustees over the fund. And it's an important role because having healthy workers who support who serve the public means that we have a healthy industry. It's very, very important that we provide that so that visitors are comfortable to come from around the world to Las Vegas. Not to mention it was always a passion, the benefits programs to myself, both professionally and personally.
And so as far as the time commitment, it's once a month plus 2 times a year nationally,
Correct.
and all the materials that you review to be prepared and all of that.
Yes.
Okay. I was just curious. I mean, I understand what you're saying, and it's just an interesting, lengthy commitment on your part. So I'm sure they appreciate you. And it says you don't get paid.
That's correct.
That's correct. So I was going to ask you, what's wrong with you? But but I think, I understand what you're saying, and I appreciate that that's, a laudable, undertaking on your behalf. So I have no further questions or comments, and if there's nothing else, did you have anything else, Ms. Okerberg?
Nothing further. I think the commissioner said it better than I could.
All right, so at this time, Mr. Marcantonis, Commissioner Marcantonis, do you have a motion? Or
Certainly.
Licky says you do.
This would be my golden buzzer, I guess. Kaboom. Anyway, Madam Chair, I move for approval of non-restricted item number 5, as read into the record by Madam Secretary, Ms. Nicole Rupert, and as recommended by the Gaming Control Board. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any discussion on the motion? There being none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you all.
There were none opposed. Thank you. Thank you for me. All right, at this time, we're going to take a comfort break and reconvene in approximately 7 minutes. Okay, we're reconvening from the break and we're back on the record. Madam Secretary, if you could please read in non-restricted number 7.
Non-restricted number 7 is the application of Enrico Drago for finding of suitability as a director at International Gaming Technology PLC. The recommendation of the Gaming Control Board is for approval.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the commission, members of the board, Madam Secretary, A.G. Burnett with the law firm of Toronto. Here with me today is Mr. Enrico Drago. As you see, he's a director with International Game Technology, the publicly traded company. He is coming in for a finding of suitability as such. He gave a presentation before the board. He's happy to do so today or answer any questions you might have.
We'd love to meet you and hear a little bit about you from you, if you don't mind.
Yeah, nice to meet you, Madam Chair Togliatti, Commissioner. Good afternoon, everybody. I was born and raised in Italy, where I get to college at the University of Milan. And once I graduated, I moved to Spain, where I lived for 5 years and working, and then eventually getting my MBA in Spain. Then I joined Inditex, which is the parent company of Zara, the fast fashion clothes chain, where I've been until 2014, mainly serving in Italy as a managing director for that company. And this is the time when 2014 I joined IGT in Rome, basically overseeing all the Italian operations, ranging from lottery to gaming, sports betting, all the sorts of gaming, until 2017, when I moved to the US with my wife and kids to oversee the growth and the development of iGaming and sports betting, which back then was very little. And thanks to some lucky things like new states opening up for iGaming and sports betting, the business grew quite nicely lately, and we were able to build quite a solid and thriving business out of that until a couple of months ago, when I stepped down as the CEO of IGT Play Digital and moved to the board of director. IGT is controlled by D'Agostini, which is an Italian entity that is basically controlled by my family. So that will be all. I don't know if you have any question.
Thank you.
I'm happy to answer.
Thank you. I will open it up to my colleagues for any questions or comments. I'll start with Commissioner Korlicki.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Welcome, and it's good afternoon now. Our break put us out of this morning. It is such a pleasure to meet you. Your CV is wonderful. A board is fortunate to have that C-suite experience to move over. Is that an independent board seat? I mean, you're fresh out of the C-suite, so how do they do that?
I'm not part of independence part of the board because I represent D'Agostini.
Okay, so it's an executive board position.
Yes.
Just because it's the public company, you need to maintain the independence. Okay.
There are independents obviously on the board, but I am not part of that cohort because
I didn't know if it's your retirement and heading back to Milan. Your kids excited, not excited about going back?
They like their life here. And because no matter if you move, by 60 miles or 6,000, for them, it's just start everything from scratch. So our family say, you're coming back? Yes, we are the adults, but the kids are moving.
How old are they?
Coming. They're 17 to 8, because the eldest one, the youngest one, she's already in college in Spain, so she's on her
unaffected. You're closer. I'm very, very comfortable supporting your application today. And it's again my pleasure to meet you. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Thank you for being here, Mr. Drago. I was interested in your relationship or your roles in the fashion industry. You did that for about 9 years?
Yes, that's correct.
What was your role?
I was first, before my MBA, I was working for a company responsible for basically making cream and perfumes like skincare in perfume. Then I took my MBA, and then I moved. This is when I moved to Zara, which is now probably the biggest fast fashion retail company, bigger than H&M, Gap, Banana, and all of that. It is I would say 30 billion in revenues and 150 billion in market cap right now, one of the biggest companies. And when I was 33, I was appointed basically CEO of Italian operations back then, overseeing, back then it was like 350 stores, 5,000 people.
So you're always on the business side, not on the designer.
No, unfortunately, no. I was always on the business side. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Is Lottomatica somehow affiliated with IGT or?
It was, absolutely. So when I joined back in 2014, Lottomatica was part of IGT entirely until 2021, when all the gaming operations of Lottomatica, meaning gaming machines, sports betting, online gaming, were sold to a competitor of us controlled by Apollo. And therefore, since that time, we've been concentrating on lottery only in Italy. So the scratch and win and the draw games concession. The brand Lottomatica was part of the transaction, so now belongs to this company since.
Okay,
so our company name in Italy is IGT Lottery.
Okay, got it. And what's your relationship with Marco Drago?
He's my dad.
Your dad, okay.
Yeah, so he retired first from the board of the Agostini a couple of years ago. And then he stepped down from the board of IGT 2 months ago. And this is where I replace him.
So you're replacing him, because I thought I saw he's stepping down in May sometime this month, and then you kind of took over a little bit. You overlap.
Exactly. We've been overlapping exactly until the AGM, which happened 2 days ago.
Okay.
Perfect. Ratified the change.
You know, very impressive background, and there was no area of concern. And I'm pleased to meet you and welcome you, hopefully as a licensee, if all goes well today.
Thank you.
Commissioner Marcantonis?
Mr. Drago, my first concern was exactly what we heard earlier from my fellow commissioners. When I saw that the children were 3 teenagers in the upper, etc., I was thinking, okay, this is going to go down really well. Going back to Europe, and you've explained it. And of course, if your daughter is already in Spain, that's wonderful. So Milan is home.
Yes, correct.
That's just wonderful. What a wonderful way for children to be raised, to experience the whole world. But you have an amazing background. Congratulations. One wonders how you transition through these multiple industries. Now, I understand it's all business, but to go from face creams to Zara to gaming companies and so on, is it a matter of right place at the right time, or did you have a specific drive in your mind, or how did you transition? How did you go that way?
Yeah, it is a very good question. So as I mentioned at some point, my family is an entrepreneurial family. We've been in business. I'm the 4th generation of the family business. Yeah, we started in the beginning of the previous century in Italy, and we were generally publisher. Then we diversified into different businesses. Among them, at the beginning of 2000, the lottery business in Italy, we acquired Lottomatica. And after that, we acquired GTech, which is a lottery company based out of Rhode Island, in 2006, and eventually in 2015, IGT. So this is how we pulled together. So I decided, for a bunch of reasons, maybe the main one because my dad was the leader of the business and the family, to stay away from the family business, just do things on my own, basically to prove first and foremost to myself that I was capable, to just get away from his big shade, and so I did until 2014, when I was precisely running Italian operation of Zara, of Inditex, and back then I was invited to go to Paris to meet the big French LVMH fashion company, to join them. And my dad said, "Look, this is not going to happen now. You proved, but you're not going to work for the French. You're coming to the family business. This is over, and just let's discuss what you want to do, where you can go, and we can make it happen. But you're not a doctor, you're not an architect, you've been in business, you're bringing results. So I think it's natural for you to join the family business. And so I did. And so I did in 2014. And at the beginning, it wasn't that easy because moving from that world and into the highly regulated gaming is a very different. So I had quite a good year and a half to learn a lot from the fire hose, but then it's a business. And once you understand it's about people. When you know how to deal with people, then things come out.
I'm smiling inside, actually visualizing your father saying, okay, enough of this nonsense. You're coming to the family business now. I'm wondering when your senior teenagers become young people, if what the process and the procedure will be like for you then. It may be the shoe will be on the other foot and a big deja vu. Good luck.
We'll see. Because our generation were 45 people. Their generation is probably going to be more than 100.
Oh, geez.
Yeah. So we only need one. So what are the chances that one of my kids will do? It will all boil down to their abilities and their track record, and to basically check all the boxes to continue as a family business. If the family business will still be there, who knows?
Great story. Thank you.
One second, I didn't turn my
The only
mic on.
comment, it's just been great to have you here. So interesting, your life, and you're more than qualified, and I'm happy to approve your application as well. So thank you.
Well, it has been a pleasure to meet you. We appreciate you being here to answer all of our questions. And, he pronounces my name the way it's supposed to be pronounced. So there's that.
It's a very famous last name.
You know what?
It's a very famous
My
name.
father says we were the poor side of the family, on the other side of the tracks from that famous person, Palmiro. So supposedly not closely related in any way. He may just be saying that because he was purportedly a dictator, but I don't know.
No, he was
Keep it mysterious. Don't
He's
let
really
it remain
one of
mysterious.
he's really one of the person that made Italy a republic.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I was given the wrong information.
Oh yeah.
Because someone else told me, oh, people see the name and they ask. And so people will say, certain things about him that I have no idea if their basis of knowledge is correct. And I've never done the research because I'm told we're not related. But the pronunciation is correct. And so I appreciate that. It's been Americanized over the years. Okay, well, I don't have any questions or comments. I obviously support your application. You're eminently qualified and suitable for licensing. And at this time, if someone had a motion, I would gladly entertain it.
And I'm delighted. Thank you, Madam Chairman. I'm glad you have found comfort in your names, the historical record and legacy. I do have a question. You said something after I spoke. The AGM has happened and you were voted onto the board, or the AGM is needing to happen?
No, it happened 2 days ago.
All right. And you did well.
Yes. Everything went well.
Good. And I'd be remiss if I didn't recognize Mr. Burnett, who capably is standing next to you. It's always a pleasure to see you, Meiji. So with that, Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve non-restricted item number 7 as read into the record by Madam Secretary and recommended for approval by the Gaming Control Board. Was it
7?
7.
Was referred back.
6 was referred back. So on item number 7, any discussion on that motion? There being none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
There are none opposed. Appreciate you being here today. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Madam Secretary, could you please read in non-restricted number 8?
Non-restricted number 8 are the applications of John Lucas for finding of suitability as a key executive as noted on the agenda. Recommendation of the Gaming Control Board is for approval.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the commission, A.G. Burnett, law firm of McDonald Carano, here before you today with Mr. John Stephen Lucas. He is COO and Executive Vice President and Secretary for the entities listed on agenda item number 8. coming before you with an application for finding of suitability as a key employee. As with the board, he gave a detailed presentation of his background. He's happy to do so today, should you wish, or answer any questions you might have.
Well, nice to meet you.
Good to meet you.
We always appreciate an introduction from the person of the hour.
Would you like to hear a little? My background?
Sure, we would love to.
First of all, Madam Chair, Commissioners, members of the Control Board, staff, good afternoon. It's a pleasure to be here and pleased to be before you for this matter. I have had a 40-plus year journey in the casino industry. And prior to that, I was in hotel and food and beverage. Stumbled upon the industry answering a blind ad and ended up in Atlantic City, starting out as a director and ultimately to a senior vice president position. Was there for about 11 and a half years with Hollywood Casino Corporation and some predecessors. After that, I went to Iowa to help to design, develop, and build and operate a riverboat in Council Bluffs, Iowa. Got that up and running. Had the opportunity to come out here to Prima Donna Resorts. Was there until MGM bought us, and I was a general manager over 3 properties out there. When MGM bought us, I had the opportunity to join Caesars Entertainment with the commissioner. Was a colleague of mine there. I was with Caesars for about 5 years. Went to as a regional president for 3 properties in Tunica, Mississippi. We also had a service center in Gulfport, Mississippi. Did that, and lo and behold, Harrah's decided to buy us. And so I left and took a position in Biloxi, Mississippi at what was first called the Imperial Palace. We changed the name to the IP. I was there for approximately 6 years, 5.5 years. I was hired really to pretty it up to sell it. There was a lot of mergers and acquisitions at the time with Harrah's and Penn, and it was owned by a board of trustees, a charitable trust. So we were working on that, and about 6 weeks after I got there, lo and behold, Hurricane Katrina hit. So an interesting part of my life, and it life-changing, but a great experience nonetheless. And we repositioned the property and turned it into what was doing $5 million in EBITDA over the first 7 years per year. The first year we reopened, we did about $200 million in EBITDA. So we repositioned it. We're the first to reopen, had the least amount of damage in Biloxi. Not that we didn't have a lot of damage, but great story. We sold that property, and then I had the pleasure of joining Hard Rock International, first going up to Cleveland, Ohio to open a property there. It was discussed that I would open that property and move into a corporate role after finding my successor. Sometimes those things happen and sometimes they don't. In this case, it happened exactly as described. Hard Rock was a restaurant company basically for 30 plus years. And when I got hired, the goal was really to help grow, diversify the portfolio and grow the hotel and casino divisions. Today, we have 159 cafes. We have 24 hotels, 15 hotel casinos or casinos, with several more under construction. So we've seen some rapid growth in that area and enabled us to truly diversify the portfolio. And casinos really has become probably our primary business at this point in time. So after moving into the corporate role as Executive Vice President of Hotels and Casinos, I was then promoted to Chief Operating Officer in 2017. And obviously going through COVID was another interesting part of my career, but not to date myself, but I started back in 1984 when there was Atlantic City, New Jersey, and Nevada, and that was it. So to see the industry grow as it has and to be a part of that growth and be able to, while being licensed in virtually every jurisdiction in the country and outside the country, as we have a license that we haven't used in the UK, we're up in Ottawa, Canada, we're in
have projects on the books for Barcelona, Spain, Athens, Greece. We broke ground. So lots of growth with the company. The company's values really match mine. Our number one core value is honesty, integrity, and professionalism. And obviously in the casino industry, integrity is the most important thing, and the regulatory environment we take very seriously. We recognize that licenses are a privilege and not a right. And so we're very careful to use that core value throughout. The other thing that the company does is extremely philanthropic. We do a lot of different initiatives, both globally as well as at the property level. And I think that's something that's near and dear to me. But having the opportunity to go into some of these markets, such as Bristol, Virginia, where we just opened a couple of years ago, they awarded licenses, truthfully, based on the economic situation in those communities. And this was a particularly hard-hit community, the Bristol area. It's in southwest corner of Virginia on the Tennessee border. And the coal industry was the big industry there. So an economically depressed area, we've gone in and created what will be about 1,200 to 1,400 jobs there, and well-paying, good-paying jobs. A slot attendant there is making $100,000 a year, which is just unheard of in Bristol, Virginia. So really life-changing stories that you hear from the people, and I think that's one of the most gratifying things that we do in our industry is create opportunities. And with that, I'll open it up for any questions that you might have.
Thank you. I'll start. Who would like to start? Do you have any questions or comments? Commissioner Marcantonis?
Sure, certainly. Mr. Lucas, nice to have you with us today. So you have been with Hard Rock for about 12 years, is that right? And have you known Mr. Allen for many, many years, or just that period while you were with him?
I've known Jim Allen for 40 years.
40 years. You didn't work with him in any other locations, did you?
No,
I didn't see that in any.
We were had both of us had purchasing reporting to us at one point in time in our careers back in Atlantic City, and they had a purchasing association regular meetings. That's where I first met him, and we got to be acquainted, stayed in touch over the years. And then finally in 2012, I guess it was, when we finally started talking about this position or these positions.
It's remarkable to see the transitions for some people, like earlier today, Ms. Kaiser Murphy, who came through human resources to develop an amazing career as a CEO. Yourself, and I'm familiar Mr. Allen's background, through procurement to lead this monstrosity and say that positively in Fort Lauderdale. So you've had some big projects right now. The press has been covering very actively the Mirage, and you're probably thinking to yourself, I wish these locals would stop moaning about the volcano or whatever is on your mind. But no, we're not letting it go. but besides that, Hellenicon, I'm familiar with the project because I've been by there. When is that? That's a monster. That will be the biggest project in Europe, surely.
Yes.
And when are you anticipating you will have finished developing that monster?
Well, we have broken ground at the end of 23. We did, and we anticipate 2027 that'll be open to the public. 1,100 rooms and slots, tables, convention space. It's a beautiful location, as I'm sure you're well aware.
It's very beautiful,
overlooking the beautiful waters of Athens, Greece.
And how will that affect your own work regimen? A lot of travel backwards and forwards. I mean, your responsibilities will. Would you have any help, or is it just you are going to see that right through all the way? And congratulations.
Yeah, my wife just reminded me this morning, I don't really live in South Florida. I just visit because I'm on an airplane most of the time, as I am here in Sacramento, where we have a project as well.
Thank you for that, and good luck with that project.
Commissioner Silver, any questions or comments?
No, I'm just pleased to support your application, and thank you for coming in here today.
Thank you, Commissioner.
I don't have any questions. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
No real questions, but always have comments. Forgive me. What a stellar grinding, gritty career you've had. I just, I'm so impressed. You've worn just about every hat and you've earned everything, you have to you, and you just get more work because you just keep doing it very well. But I just love the grittiness of your career. Where you've been everywhere, it is extraordinary that you've never been licensed in Nevada. I think that was noted previously. So,
correct.
Hope you're not too nervous being in front of us today.
No, I've done this a few times. So.
I'm sure you have. I thought Commissioner Marcantonis was going to pull the trigger on the question, but you just touched it. So I'm going to do it because the Gaming Control Board asked you about Mirage and timetable. Subsequent to that meeting, like yesterday, great headline, Mirage to vanish on July 17th. Kudos to the headline writer on that one. But obviously, I think there's 3,300 people, transitions, exciting in the future. I know you've been working with culinary and others, but could you talk a little bit now that there's definition? 2027 is going to be a big year for your company if you've got both Athens and, the Strip opening up. I hope you have enough time to travel back and forth before, we'll the openings don't conflict.
Sure. Yes, the Gaming Control Board did ask me the question, and truthfully, at that point in time, we didn't really have a date. This really came to fruition just the other day. Part of it was going through with the capital markets being so challenged as they are, and the cost of rising and escalating cost of construction. We were just really trying to work through what the spend could be and what the scope of the project would be. And I think, we've been at this for about a year and a half of trying to figure it out. And I think we finally sorted through all that, and we were able to announce, a very difficult day for the team members yesterday, but even for our team of management. Our property president there, Joe Lupo, he's knowing that this day was going to come, that we were going to ultimately have to announce something. And we just looked at the scope of the project and what we're going to do to the existing facilities and realized that the guest experience just was not going to be what it needed to be in the type of guest service that we like to deliver. It'd be so disruptive that we felt the best option was to shut the property down. We announced July 17th. Our focus over the next 60, 90 days is really on the team members and that transition. We've talked to MGM. We've discussed it with Caesars. We've discussed it with Wynn, Fontainebleau, Boyd, Treasure Island, all the neighbors, and then some. We're going to do job fairs for them. They've all asked to be a part of it. We've offered that up. We also have all the properties that we have. We're under construction in Bristol, Virginia on the permanent facility. We're in Rockford, Illinois, permanent facility, Ottawa, Canada on a permanent facility. All those properties will double the workforce that they have. We're under construction in Tejon, which is outside of Bakersfield, with a partnership with the Native American tribe there. So we'll be managing that facility. So there's opportunities there. So anybody that wants to relocate or to Florida, Atlantic City, we'll gladly accommodate them. But if they want to stay local, we've arranged for some career job fairs for them. We'll have the Department of Employment, Training and Rehabilitation there on site, have health providers there. We've really, kudos to Joe Lupo and Jamie Stratton and the team there for the plan that they put together to be sensitive to the needs. And you can say so much in a group meeting, and I was in several of those yesterday, but everybody's circumstance is a little different. We've got union members, we've got non-union members, we've got people with long longevity, short longevity, certain, everybody's situation is different. So we've planned on departmental meetings because departments have some similarities and opportunity. We've established a team member resource, a support center in the closed buffet. So people have that on a daily basis. So really focused on how do we gracefully transition folks out and how do we help them to move on and get get jobs, or, obviously we'll love to have them come back. We're going to have twice the number of team members as we had before. I think someone mentioned about 3,000, and that's accurate. And we'll have about 6,000 is what we project when we reopen. So clearly we'll be able to provide opportunities for people, but there's that gap, 3 years.
Best of times, worst of times for folks, but it's an exciting one. And again, it'll be a great enhancement to our state, Nevada, and certainly the Strip. It's exciting. Can't wait to see what you're all doing. I can't quite visualize back-to-back guitars that have rooms in them, those kind of things. So I'll be interested in that. But the sensitivity you've expressed today to those folks, the work you've done, it's, this is like a deja vu. We just had this conversation with the Tropicana and others, but your humanity in this, as you make, billion-dollar decisions is appreciated, and it's being watched, and best efforts certainly, but thank you for that.
But, Bellagio and Venetian, there were older properties on those sites, and what evolved from that. I think we only know one way to do things, and that's first class. And we'll build something that the community and the state will be very, very proud of, and you all will be proud of. And Guitar Hotel is very unique, but the other features that'll be there will be pretty spectacular as well.
Can't wait to see it. Thank you, sir. Fully support your application.
Thank you.
Does anybody else have any questions or comments? Sir, thank you very much for being so thorough for us. We appreciate it, both on your background and what's going on the property. So obviously, I believe you have the support of the commission for your application, and I'm going to call for a motion.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Yes.
Madam Chair, I move for approval of non-restricted item number 8 as read into the record by Madam Secretary and as recommended by the Gaming Control Board. Thank you.
Any discussion on the motion? There being none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And there are none opposed. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
We appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. I believe that brings us to our restricted items held up for discussion. Madam Secretary, if you could please read in restricted number 1.
Restricted number 1 is the application of Dolce Santa Croce for temporary licensure as a personal representative of the estate of Joseph Arthur Donato, as noted on the agenda. Also, the applications of R&R for a transfer of interest, as noted on the agenda. You also have the applications of the Joseph A. Donato Trust and the Santa Croce Gaming Trust for registration as a holding company and for finding of suitability of Dolce Santa Croce as trustee and beneficiary, as noted on the agenda. It's also the applications of the Joseph A. Donato Trust and the Santa Croce Gaming Trust for licensure as a shareholder, as noted on the agenda. The recommendation of the Gaming Control Board is for approval.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the commission, and also Madam Secretary. Jeff Donato, enrolled agent, here with the applicant, Mrs. Santa Croce. Just for clarification, I have no relation that I'm aware of to decedent before us that is on the application. We did give affirmative presentation at the board. If you would like to, we can summarize that for you, or we can go right to questions, whatever you would like.
Does anybody have any problem with asking questions? I think we're pretty familiar with the item, so if I'll open it up for any questions or comments on my colleagues. Any questions or comments?
Just, Madam Chair, if I might, and Ms. Santa Croce, therefore we're trying to get the language right today. Again, we appreciate you being here. I know there were some questions about the 30 days and the application versus a notice, but I thought the Gaming Control Board did a wonderful and sensitive job with all that. I believe this was your ex-husband, but still, condolences on that loss, and obviously it's affecting your life and things. I know you're taking a passive role in the operation. We appreciate you being here and doing it right.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Do you have any questions or comments, or would someone like to make a motion?
Madam Chair, I'm happy to make a motion for approval of restricted item number 1 is read into the record by Madam Secretary and is recommended by the Gaming Control Board.
Any discussion on the motion? No. There being none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And there are none opposed. Thank you very much. We appreciate your patience today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to thank Agent Senior Lombardo for all his work in sorting the applications.
Thank you. That brings us to restricted number 2. Madam Secretary, if you could read that into the record, please.
Restricted number 2 is the application of Nevada Brewworks LLC doing business as Nevada Brewworks for a restricted gaming license and the application of Jason Taylor for licensure as a member and manager as noted on the agenda. The recommendation of the Gaming Control Board is for approval with conditions as noted on the agenda.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the commission, Madam Secretary Jeff Donato here, enrolled agent. With me is the applicant, Mr. Taylor. We did give affirmative presentation at the board. Essentially, this application is to add gaming to an existing business that has been operating since 2020. The applicant will use the services of a slot route operator. He did attend the seminar on May 7th, and we did forward a copy of that attendance letter to the gaming agent. And then with that, we're here to answer any questions you may have.
What did you think of it?
Thought it was very thorough. It was a good seminar. I think I learned a lot. I'm ready to start as a first time. Well, first of all, I should say thank you, Madam Chair and Commissioner, for having me today. But yes, I thought it was sufficient. I think we're ready to start.
Well, we appreciate you being here today. It's nice to meet you. I'm going to open it up to my colleagues for any questions or comments they may have. It's fairly straightforward, but it's good to hear that you went to the seminar and what you thought of it. So appreciate that. I'll start over here. Commissioner Silver.
I'll just say a comment, and that is my family goes all the way from Centennial Hills to Nevada Brewworks for hamburgers. And that's how much my kids love your hamburgers. So thank you. And I'm fully in support of your application. It's a great place.
I don't have any questions about the application, Mr. Taylor, but I just wanted to commend your efforts on behalf of the Ariana Rye Foundation. I think it's great that you've keeping her memory alive in a positive way to help other families. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
And I need to echo that, Madam Chair, if I may. You know, from a professional and application standpoint, you know, I'm enthused. I think this will be great and a wonderful addition, and good on you and your wife for doing this. And I have complete confidence that you'll do it successfully. But on the human level, you know, we're all parents. Ariana, 7 years old. I have 3 daughters. I just can't imagine. But you know, the good that you're finding in that tragedy is just heartwarming, and we appreciate that. And I am in great support of your application today.
Very much.
Commissioner Marcantonis, do you have anything else?
I will echo both of my fellow commissioners' comments. Thank you for being here. I will be supporting the application, and good luck going forward.
Thank you.
Well, at this time, it would appear that this is in proper form for a motion. Who would like to make that motion?
I'm happy to make the motion, Madam Secretary. I move for approval of restricted item number 2 is read into the record by Madam Secretary and is recommended by the Game Control Board.
Any discussion on the motion? There being none, all in favor, say aye. Aye. And there are none opposed. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'd like to thank Senior Agent Jones for all her work on this application.
Thank you for being here. Nice to meet you. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. And we hope to help a lot more kids this year through the Ariana Rye Foundation. I think it's been very giving back to us a lot. And it kind of allows us to allow Ariana's short life and her legacy to live on. So thank you.
Thank you. Madam Secretary, if I'm correct, that concludes our items held out for discussion, correct?
Correct.
All right, so now if you could please read in our next item.
Next for your consideration is 1 gaming employee registration appeal. That item is Alicia Conrad, case number 2010-7643L.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Okay, I always take a minute to advise of the process today. The way this works is that first of all, you should know we've been given a record of what was considered by what we call below, right? The hearing officer that heard this matter and the original documents that brought it to that place, the transcript of that, and what's been provided by the board. We are limited in our consideration of those materials, meaning limited to those materials. We can't be going off and looking for additional evidence or considering things outside of what was part of the record there. So that doesn't mean we can't consider your commentary or your position, or what do you want us to consider on your behalf. You're certainly free to make those comments. And if for some reason there's concern that you're referencing something that isn't part of the record, or you want us to consider something part of the record, I'll bring it up at that time. But otherwise, you can just go ahead and tell us what you want us to know. I'll also say there's going to be, when you're done speaking and answering questions, if there are questions, I don't know, but when you're done, there will be a time when there's a motion made and an opportunity for discussion on the motion. At that time, that's discussion for these folks and not for you. So I will tell you all those things when they're happening. And if you have any questions about the procedure, don't hesitate to ask. And that's about it. Any questions before we get started?
No.
Okay, so we get a binder that has all the materials that I talked about before. And so we are ready. We review it before you get here. Sorry, I have feedback. Sorry about that. So before I ask any of my colleagues if they have any questions for you, now is your opportunity to make any statements to us that you wish to make about this matter.
Okay. First of all, let me say good afternoon. I apologize for my voice. Went to my company picnic and went home with a raspy voice. I don't know what happened. And I do apologize that my background isn't as impressive as everybody else's who has been here today. I do want to say that I did go to court on my charges. They're reduced to 2 misdemeanors. The charges that I had pending, they were reduced to misdemeanors. That robbery was dismissed to a disorderly conduct, and the second one, the assault, was reduced to a battery.
Just for the record, I mean, I think it's pretty obvious, but you are Alicia Conrad.
I am.
Yes. Okay, go ahead. Keep going.
Okay. And I think that's all we were waiting for was the outcome of the case. I haven't been to sentencing yet. I go on Monday, but I didn't enter in my plea for 2 misdemeanors. I hope you guys can take that into consideration. You know, I've been through a lot in my life, you know, and I just want to move forward. I want to be able to prove myself as a, you know, a good person, a hard worker, and somebody who should be able to hold a gaming license and be able to provide for their family. That's about it. I don't know what else to say. I don't know if
at this time, I'm going to open it up for questions by any of the commissioners that want to ask you about this matter related to your work card. Starting with Commissioner Krolicki. Do you have any questions?
I appreciate the chair's Socratic method. I really would like to hear from my colleagues who are your honors formally. I appreciate your story. I hear the sincerity, but this is hard. Actions have consequences, and and we're restricted to what we have in front of us. Appreciate the update, but I'm not sure that there's sufficient compelling evidence today, and with the amount of time that's gone by, to do anything but to sustain the recommendation to us. That's difficult for me to say, but I would like to hear my colleagues' comments and thoughts on the matter.
Commissioner Solis-Rainey.
I also didn't have any questions. I'm glad to see that matter is getting resolved with it still being opened. To me, it's too recent you did such a good job staying out of trouble for so long.
Yeah.
You know, it's unfortunate that something cropped up, you know, right when you were applying for this. So due to the recency, I don't know that I am, at this point, I'm not willing to support overturning the objection. But I do want to commend your efforts, and you've shown that you can do it. You stayed out of trouble for almost 10 years, out of any kind of trouble. You certainly have shown that you've grown as a individual, as a mother, as a grandmother. So I would just urge you to, you know that you can do it and stick with it. And if this doesn't go your way today, to certainly, you know, come back when a little more time has elapsed to show that, you know, you're committed to staying on the right track.
Commissioner Marcantonis?
Ms. Conrad, you have a sentencing hearing, you said, on Monday?
Correct.
Okay. And what is your expectations of the outcome? Do you have counsel at all that's guiding you through it, or?
I do.
Okay. And what are they advising may or may not occur on Monday?
I think I'm just signing my paperwork. I have been, my requirements are basically stay out of trouble for a year. I have to do alcohol assessment classes, impulse control class, and I have to pay $800 in fines. That's it.
Okay. And are you when you hear what my fellow commissioner said, that you've done such a great job just staying out of trouble for considerable periods before.
Right.
Now, the recency of this was very bad timing, but do you feel that you have the motivation? Is your motivation strong enough to maintain, to keep trying, even to try and do that again, to give you the opportunity to reapply in the future if this does not go in your way today?
Yes, of course. Like I said, I still have to stay out of trouble for a year. So that'll be, you know, the beginning to see if I can do this. You know, this wasn't my intentions, and I didn't expect even for this outcome. You know, I expected the case to be dismissed. I had a situation where I was in a lot of pain, and I probably shouldn't have gone out that night. I was trying to be a good person. I was trying to help somebody who pretended to be broke down, which is kind of weird. But you know, I didn't expect this to be the outcome of trying to help somebody. So, like I said, you know, speaking, I guess I never expected to be in trouble at this point in my life.
But at least you have that motivation. And do you have support around you?
I do.
Some family or friends that can help you to reach your goals?
I do.
I encourage you to keep maximizing those resources and maintaining a positive outlook. It doesn't matter when sometimes things just seem to go badly against you. You can turn it around if you have the support and if you've got the passion. So I encourage you to look forward. Thank you. Thank you, Jim.
Commissioner Silver?
Thank you, Chair. I appreciate your comments today, and I don't doubt that you're not 100% sincere as you come here before us. But as Commissioner Kurlicki is curious to know, you know, our thoughts, having been a judge for 20 years and sat on a pardons board, sometimes, at least for us judges, we can never, and here in the commission, we can't be swayed by sympathy as much as we feel for you right now. We have to look at things very objectively. And when I look objectively at your record, I don't see that you've stayed out of trouble for any long periods of time. In fact, it almost looks like every 2 years you get arrested. In fact, you had an arrest in 2017 and 2019 before this one in 2023. So I guess 4 years maybe, but they're all for the same thing. It all appears to be alcohol related, impulse control, which is what you're taking. This arrest is in line with all your other arrests. it looks like to me, with an assault. And so it appears that, at least from my perspective, the best indicator, your past conduct is the best indicator of your future. Generally, that's what we see in the system. And now it's about 15 years of constant arrests. So I see that you have made great strides. You went to gaming school. And I think that you are trying, but I would like to see you stay out of trouble with no arrest for at least 5 years before I personally would be approving you for any kind of permit like that. But I do wish you the best of luck. But I would really emphasize that you need to stay out of trouble for a very good long period of time with no arrests, similar to what you've had over this last 15 years. But I do wish you the best of luck.
So Ms. Conrad, do you still owe back child support?
Probably like $3,000 or less. I don't know. They garnish my everything that they can. So it was at $23,000 and I didn't know about it.
Okay. Well, that's kind of how it works, right? Look, to the extent that my fellow commissioner is curious, if I agree with Commissioner Silver based on the same, background, 100% agree. I'll choose the industry every day, all day. It's what keeps our state going. It's the most important industry in this state. And you have just so many problems in the past. And this most recent one just doesn't give me a lot of comfort. And so I choose the industry. And if there's a motion to uphold the recommendation or finding, I forget the language of the actual motion itself, because I'm having a mind blank, drawing a blank, then I will support that. And it's nothing against you, but it's only so many passes you get where you just, right? And there's a concern about the financial incentive and just the alcohol and the history. And so I don't know if there's going to be a motion made. I think we heard a couple commissioners and where they were leaning to go. So at this time, does anyone have a motion, or can I make a motion to sustain?
I'll move to sustain the Nevada Gaming Control Board's objection to Ms. Conrad's registration as a gaming employee in Nevada.
And is this going to be for
Is that
5
right?
years?
Is that right?
This is a motion for consideration, so.
Is that correct?
We
Well,
still use the same language.
that's what you have here, so.
Okay, so I'm sorry, the question was?
Is it for 5 years?
Yes.
Okay.
And I think that's under 5.109, correct? Is that the regulation that talks about the 5 years?
Subsection 7.
Yes, that's.
Okay. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? So it's unanimous. Got to wait at least 5 years.
Thank you. Thank you for your time and your consideration. Have a great day.
Thank you. Madam Secretary, could you please read in the next agenda item?
You have 5 regulation agenda items regarding proposed amendments to Nevada Gaming Commission Regulations 2, 5, 6, 8, and 10 as noted on the agenda.
Good afternoon, Chair Tagliati, members of the commission, members of the board, Madam Secretary. For the record, I'm Sebastian Ross with the Nevada Gaming Control Board. Today, for your consideration and possible adoption, is a proposed amendment to Commission Regulation 10.041. The draft before you is dated April 3rd, 2024. The draft reflects a minor change as recommended by the board on April 3rd, 2024. The purpose for the draft before you today is to remove a regulation that may no longer serve as a proponent in protecting the integrity and stability of the industry through strict regulation. Correlating with this purpose, it is proposed that Regulation 10.041 be repealed. The regulation provides a grandfather clause, which allows someone who received a commission-issued enrollment certificate prior to October 26, 1990, the ability to practice as an enrolled agent. To the best of my knowledge, it appears the regulation no longer applies to any actively enrolled agents. The proposed repeal deletes the language in Regulation 10.041. I ask that you adopt the changes recommended by the board effective upon your adoption and approval. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you have any questions? I don't think we have any questions. I know you're disappointed. Does anyone have a motion?
Madam Secretary, or I'm sorry, Madam Chair, I move for adoption. I don't have the language. I apologize. Hold on.
There you go.
Is it the 10? And it's not here.
Here's 10.
Yeah. I move for that the Nevada Gaming Commission adopt the proposed amendments to NGC Regulation 10 by repealing Section 10.041 as recommended by the Nevada Gaming Control Board in the draft dated April 3rd, 2024 to be effective upon adoption.
Any discussion on the motion? There being none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And there are none opposed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I know.
We ready?
Ready.
Okay. Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the commission, Madam Secretary. For the record, my name is Ed McGaw. I'm with the Nevada Attorney General's Office representing the Nevada Gaming Control Board in this matter. Before you today, you should have a draft dated March 7th, 2024, which the board has voted to recommend for adoption by the commission. This draft presents proposed amendments to Nevada Gaming Commission Regulations 5.230, 5.2305, 5.231, 5.232, 5.240, 5.242, and 5A.220. These amendments were originally prompted by sections 9.1 and 9.3 of Senate Bill 14 from the 2003 regular session of the Nevada Legislature. Those sections gave the Nevada Gaming Commission authority to define what portions of a registered hosting center and registered service provider premises the board would have access to. Or with the chair's permission, I will provide an overview of the proposed changes.
Excuse me, please.
Okay, starting with hosting centers and service providers. In accordance with SB 14, the draft limits the board's and commission's access to those areas of the respective facilities where equipment is located, which actually hosts or processes gaming-related transactions or activities. The reason for this is these hosting centers and service providers provide services to multiple companies, some of which are highly sensitive and could be federal government, military, that the board and commission have no interest to or no need to access those areas. But they will be able to access any area in which gaming operations take place. Any premises used for the reason, for under their registration, we will have access to. The hosting center provisions are found in Regulation 5.231, subsection 1, which is on page 3 of the draft. The service provider provisions are found in Regulation 5.240, subsection 10, paragraph A, on page 7 of the draft. In addition to this, to provide flexibility regarding certain situations, the draft provides hosting centers and service providers the ability to seek a waiver or modification of the access requirements, provided such requests are consistent with the public policy of the state regarding gaming. Again, this is simply to give us a little more flexibility with hosting centers and service providers in this area. Hosting center waiver provision is found in Regulation 5.231, subsection 2, which is on page 3 of the draft. The service provider waiver provision is found in 5.240, 10B, which is on page 7 of the draft. In addition, the draft provides that it is an unsuitable method of operation for a hosting center or service provider to deny a member of the or an agent of the board or commission upon lawful demand access to the entity's premises or equipment, the ability to inspect any aspects of its operation, or to fail to disclose any aspects of its operation. The reason for this is once it's just a formality, they're found unsuitable, we bring disciplinary action to prove that. So we still have all the powers and authorities to seek disciplinary, including and up to the revocation of the registrations. For hosting centers, these provisions are found in Regulation 5.231, subsection 3, which is on page 4 of the draft. For service providers, these provisions are found in Regulation 5.24010C, which is on page 7 of the draft. Now, moving on to cloud computing service providers specifically, the draft provides the ability of a cloud computing service provider to request a waiver of the requirements as to the location of equipment. This waiver provision is found in Regulation 5.242 subsection 3, which is on page 9 of the draft. To be granted this waiver, it must be consistent with the public policy of the state of Nevada regarding gaming. The waiver provision provides specific requirements if the waiver is to allow the cloud computing service provider to house equipment at hosting centers that are not registered with the board. These requirements are found in Regulation 5.242 3B, which is on page 9 of the draft. Any non-registered hosting center utilized by cloud computing service provider must meet all the requirements of a registered hosting center. So there's no risk of harm for use of a non-registered hosting center. They will still be scrutinized by the board. Just there's a technicality. And the reason for this is we had situations where we had a reputable cloud computing service provider that had hosting centers throughout the country, a clear majority of which were registered with the state of Nevada, but a couple of them were operated by third parties, and they couldn't get them to register with the board, or they didn't want to register with the board. So this would give the board the ability to, in cases where there's a minority of hosting centers, to allow for the use of those hosting centers. And again, they will be fully vetted by the board, and the registered cloud computing service provider will be held responsible if any issues arise. And again, I lost my train of thought there, sorry. And so that's where we are. That's why that waiver is put in there. The draft further modifies the existing waiver provision for cloud computing service providers to bring it in line with other waiver provisions in the section. These modifications are found in Regulation 5.242, subsection 9, which is on pages 11 through 12 of the draft. In addition, the draft imposes a requirement that licensees utilizing a cloud computing service provider must submit an attestation that states that the transactions that will be processed using the cloud computing service provider will comply with the law of the jurisdictions in which the services are provided, which means that they cannot process transactions in a hosting center in a state that bans such transactions from being processed. In regards to all the waivers provisions discussed today for hosting centers and service providers, the draft states that any request for a waiver is an application, and thus the board has the ability, to impose investigative fees to cover any costs associated with processing that waiver. Some of these waivers could be very extensive, use a lot of board resources, and now the board has the ability to impose investigative fees to be reimbursed for those investigations. In regards to the suitability requirements of hosting centers, the draft clarifies that the requirements of Regulation 5.232 apply to both individuals as well as entities. This was prompted by board staff informing us that there has been some difficulty in the past or confusion by the industry on this. So this is to clarify that. And these changes are found in Regulation 5.232, which is on pages 4 through 5 of the draft. Lastly, throughout the draft, there are various substantive changes to add clarity, clear up some language, correct some references, et cetera, and to bring references into the standard format used by the commission. If adopted by the Nevada Gaming Commission, such amendments would become effective immediately. With that, I conclude my presentation and would be happy to answer any questions the commission may have. Chief Barbie is here as well, so you can ask him more of the technical questions. Thank you.
Commissioner Solis-Rainey, you have questions?
I do. Mr. McGaugh, with respect to the waiver process, and I'm looking specifically at 5.231, but the same questions may arise with respect to the others. In the past, there was a provision that the chair could waive the requirement for the portions that were used for non-gaming purposes or that didn't hold gaming equipment.
Mhm.
What would be the reason that it would be waived now?
The same, I mean, well, now that we've limited
Yeah, now it is already limited by virtue of the proposed amendments. So I understand, I mean, before the reasons they could waive it was, you know, if it didn't contain any gaming equipment or if there was hardship.
Mhm.
So the waiver provision now seems broader. Am I reading that?
I think it's to address because the board gets unique situations and circumstances that come up, and there are good players out there that you want to participate in gaming. This just gives the chair flexibility if the state, you know, they can, if the request is one that doesn't create any security risks or there's an alternative procedure that can compensate for the lack of access, the board can go and or they can seek the waiver. It's very specific to the situation, and I think just wanted to make sure that we had the flexibility going forward because we've run into the past where they've requested something and the waiver provision wasn't broad enough to give that authority, but the request was very, very reasonable and didn't pose any risks to the commission or the board or the gaming policy of the state. So,
okay. Can you think of any situations where there would be good reason for us to waive a requirement to allow our agents access to equipment? It just seems like that's something we wouldn't want to give up. And I don't understand. I couldn't think of any examples.
Chief Barbie might be able to better answer that than I am.
Good afternoon, Jim Barbie with the Nevada Gaming Control Board. Good afternoon, commissioners. To your question, Commissioner, we would not be waiving access. We may be waiving the type of access that we have. Right now, it's physical access that we have unfettered. With this language, that would allow us to perhaps waive physical access if there was compensating controls where we could get virtual access to whatever the equipment that we want there. That makes sense?
Do you not have virtual access today?
We do, but the language as it stands right now is unfettered and physical. For some of those companies, that is a startling term when you start talking to Amazon and Microsoft, that you could come in and physically seize equipment that may contain other entities' information. So if we can virtually access just the information that is relevant to whatever our case or the gaming operators are, that puts them in a much more comfortable position and makes their application process or encourages them to participate in the application process. The goal here is perhaps to encourage them to come to our state. We have had some instances in the past where these major cloud service providers see this very general and liberal ultimate authority clause in there where we have unfettered access and it's given them pause. I think this language will help reduce that.
That's already limited in subsection 1. I mean, you're already limiting to the portion of the premises on which equipment, you know, is located that pertains to gaming. So it seems like that's already significantly limited from the verbiage that was there in the past. So,
Commissioner, the verbiage I think will add clarity that it's not just physical. They could request a waiver for the physical access, with the compensating control being we'll still have virtual access. I think the way that it has been in the past, and perhaps the language that you're referring to, is that we waive that we won't physically go anywhere else. This is that the new language is that we will not just not go physically anywhere else, but we may not physically go to where the equipment that's housing gaming equipment is located. Perhaps we can access that virtually.
and I understand that I'm not confused about that distinction. I realize that this waives, you know, the potentially the physical access to where the equipment is located. I'm just not comfortable with why we would want to give that up or waive it. So I was trying to think of an example where it would make sense for us to say, okay, you know, where we'd commit up front that our agents couldn't physically access something if they felt they needed to. You know, you may have virtual access, and 95% of the time that may be sufficient, but if something in that virtual access gives you pause and you want physical access, why would you want to waive that in a anticipatory fashion?
I would have to defer to either the board. I guess my comment on it would be, we can accomplish what we need to accomplish without laying hands on it. We don't gain anything there. Let me rephrase it. It's a risk-based approach. Laying hands on it, I can detect if somebody has physically tampered with it. However, that risk is mitigated because this is in a hosting center or a facility that's required to meet certain standards, and those standards are such that people can't physically access it. So from a risk assessment standpoint, I'm not quite as tense there. So physically accessing really only gets me, can I detect perhaps if somebody has tampered? We will still have the ability to collect all of the information that's stored on that equipment, and we can do that virtually. So yes, we are potentially would waive the physical, can we get there? But that would come with the compensating factor that the facility that it's housed in is held to such high standards as to prevent that level of physical access. And one of the things that we would consider as we evaluated the waiver, the public policy statement, do we still retain the ability to get all of the information that we need off of that equipment? And when I'm reviewing one of those in the future, I don't know that I would recommend a waiver if there wasn't a compensating control that allowed me to get our agents to get everything we needed off of that. And when we evaluate those waivers, we will be looking technically, how will we do that? That will be part of the waiver application process. So the short, long-winded answer, to shorten it all up, Commissioner, the physical access, we're taking a risk-based approach there. I don't know that that buys us very much. We won't give up the virtual access.
To add to that, and Jim, you can correct me, this equipment shared, they don't exclusively have some equipment is not just exclusive for gaming transactions. So again, it's to calm their concerns that we're going to come in and take that equipment that they need to process other, transactions. Is that?
Yeah, thank you. Senior Dagmagall brings up an excellent point, and I probably should have discussed this as well. When you're thinking about the equipment that's housed at a hosting center or in a cloud computing service provider, don't think about when you go into the IT room at whatever your organization. All of your data is probably stored on a single device at a hosting center or a cloud computing center or a cloud computing service provider. That information could be distributed over hundreds of pieces of equipment. And the nature and the reason that the cloud computing service providers are able to provide the quality of service that they are is because of that distributed computing. They can put it here if they need more pieces of it here or there, wherever the computing power or the storage might be more readily available. They wouldn't be able to tell us specifically which piece of equipment that this gaming data resides on. So us having physical access to it doesn't really buy us anything in that case, because they wouldn't be able to tell us what to physically access. Because it could be distributed not just over multiple pieces of equipment, but several of the cloud computing service providers, they operate over multiple states. So as an example, there's one, they have 120 plus locations across a couple of states, maybe in the East Coast. They wouldn't be able to tell us where active casinos data resides.
Isn't there a requirement that certain equipment has to be physically located in the state of Nevada?
I believe that requirement has been broadened with the adoption of regulations that permit out-of-state hosting centers and out-of-state cloud computing service providers.
So certain aspects can be out of state, but don't certain key components have to still be within the state, or did that?
They do not, Commissioner.
Okay.
With the caveat that any wagering activity has to originate in.
Right. No, I understood that. Thank you.
Yeah. Chief Barbie, you and I had this conversation 2 months ago when we were talking about technology, and it was an IAGR conversation actually. But how you said it before, your ability to virtually access is sufficient, and it's daunting for a company to be here that you would physically go grab a server and bring it to your office. I think that's kind of what we're addressing here, and you hit upon that. But it makes sense. I do have more of a process question about this. Again, I believe that the Gaming Commission establishes regulations, changes regulations differently, but has this gone to LCB? I see Ms. Okerberg back there nodding affirmatively that what we're doing is an important improvement to our current regulations, but has there been that workshop feedback kind of opportunity as we've worked very hard? You all have worked very hard to make these amendments to the regs.
Oh, Chair, did you want to speak to this or?
Yes, through you, Chair Tagliati, to the Commissioner. The Gaming Commission does not need to go to LCD on this. By statute, these are the Commission's regulations, and you serve as the body to decide whether to pass your regulation, which is a wonderful piece of legislation.
Would you remind me, there is a process where we do have to go to LCB after we make an approval of a regulation?
Yeah, there's a few items within the act. I think there's two, one of which is live entertainment tax, and the other one I'm not familiar. Just to answer your question about workshop.
Could you repeat that? You said live entertainment and then.
And I don't recall off the top of my head what the other one is.
I just didn't hear it.
But it's a very unique provision in the reg or statute. But to answer your question about the workshop, we did workshop this, and the comments we received were from Amazon Web Services, and Erica Oakberg is here so she can answer questions of concerns that Amazon raised.
Commissioner,
I just had a follow-up question on the same issue. Did you want clarification?
I just was wondering if she knew what the other one was. Okay.
I know the comments have been, that there's concern with these providers that gaming can come in and take equipment. I guess I don't read the statute that way. I mean, my read of statute is that this allows you to physically or virtually inspect the portion of these devices, not that you're going to go in and take them from the premises. I'm not sure what the word is. There a disconnect? I mean, the comments that both Commissioner Kerlicki made and Chief Barbie, I believe you made a comment about, there's concern on their part that you would go in and take certain parts of their devices. I didn't understand that that's what this was providing you, that you'd be actually taking anything from their site.
The concern was in the past that we could go in and physically seize. I believe the industry may have supported the changes to the statute of this last legislative session, and that was a part of their argument. I would have to defer to Ms. Okerberg specifically on any of the comments that they had made. Commissioner, that was the point of contention, is that we would physically.
Okay. And
what? I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. Yeah, that I did, the physical removal, I don't have a concern with you having the ability to do that, but it's the physical inspection, should you feel you need to after virtual access and inspection is what I was concerned about getting.
Yeah, and I think originally the statute referred to our general access provision in the statute, and that does allow us to seize records and seize other evidence. So I think when they were looking at that provision, they were very concerned that we would actually use that power to come in and seize equipment.
The previous language was along the lines that the hosting center or service provider's facility or place of business would be treated as though it were a gaming operation.
But what I'm hearing you say is this is an antiquated concern these days. To be able to do a physical examination, whether you're leaving it there or not.
It is, yes, Chair.
Because that's not how things are being done anymore.
That is correct. And I think this is one of the things I get to speak technology regularly to other regulators, as well as the industry and as regulators. This is something that we have to get a certain level of comfort with, that we're not always be able to place hands on. We actually don't need to place hands on equipment these days.
You need eyes on.
Yeah, and I don't disagree.
Yeah,
most of
It's
the
on
time.
hands-on, yeah.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. If I could, Erica Okerberg, I just wanted to point out the specific question that you asked, Commissioner, of what authority is there to actually seize equipment. That actually exists in the statute. It's in NRS 463-140 subsection 2C. And so part of the aim of this regulation is to help balance what already exists in the statute and to address all of the points that Chief Barbie mentioned about making sure that there is appropriate access and control over that information, but in a way that actually fits with how things are being done today, which would be more in line with a virtual access rather than a physical access on, a rack of servers that may actually have other highly confidential companies' information contained on it as it's spread across different servers.
Okay. And I understood that a requirement existed elsewhere. I just wasn't sure how it was being linked into this portion of the regulation. So
Sure.
thank you for that.
Of course.
For the record, it's not fair. She was able to cite the statute because she could look it up.
Yeah. Ms. Zuckerberg's had a very busy day today with us.
Okay, thank all of you for answering our questions and being here to kind of give us all the context. Does anybody else have any questions or follow-up to what's been discussed so far? All right. Do you want
They just keep
to-
going.
1 second.
No, I didn't understand and I couldn't think of any examples why.
Okay, I was just inquiring for the record of Commissioner Solis Rainey, if someone could, if Commissioner Krolicki's intention is to make a master motion, including all of the proposed regulation changes, or if there would be a preference on her part or anyone else's part to separate out any for the motion. And I'm understanding that she's not making that request, right? So, meaning vote on 5.230 up or down, 5.2305. She's saying no, just in case she had any issues with the one in particular is my
No,
point.
And just for clarity of the record, I was just using that one as an example. I think the questions were the same throughout the other waiver provisions and other portions of the regulation. So I appreciate that. And I was just trying to understand it because I couldn't think of any examples where you would want to do that. So.
Commissioner, thank you. You, in particular, always keep us, especially me, when it comes to technology, on our toes. Can always expect the good, hard questions from you.
Thank you.
Not that all of you don't ask good, hard questions.
I took offense.
Sorry.
So you're ready to make a motion?
Chair,
Oh, I'm sorry.
if I might, I just want to clarify that you've given the public an opportunity to comment on this regulation in writing. Okay, so, and also, I don't know if you want to ask if there's anybody else in the audience that might want to say something today.
Well, first, because there was no actual answer on the record, Nicole? No. She said, was the public given an opportunity to comment? And you shook your head, yes, which has no value to our transcript. Okay, thank you. Just a judge thing. It's a judge thing. Okay, and so the second part of it was, I'm sorry.
If you want to give, you're not required
yes.
to, but you can give the
there-
public an opportunity to comment.
Anyone else present who wishes to comment?
Chair Tagliati, Commissioners, I would just like to add for the record that we are in support and would ask that the Commission adopt the proposed amendments as they've been discussed today. Thank you.
Can I ask one other question?
Of course.
I don't want to put the other chiefs on the spot. I'm sorry, Ms. Okerberg, not of you. But I see the chief from audit and tax and license in here. Do you have any concerns with the proposed language of the changes?
Yes, for the court reporter, please.
Thomasina Fremont, Chief of the Audit Division. We have no concerns with this change.
Okay, thank you.
Jan Langspot, tax and license, no concerns.
Thank you.
Chair, can I just make one more comment in response? I just want to clarify what Commissioner Krolicki asked earlier. So under 233B, Gaming Control Board and the Gaming Commission are exempt from having to go through the process with LCB. So the chair was correct. It's because you have an exemption under 233B. The two items are an LET and something to do with the fees that are set for interactive game So other than those two items, you are not required to go through LCB to do any regulations. You can pass regulations of your own accord.
And I ask that because we had that recent experience of needing to not be the final authority on a regulation. But then, thank you.
That's an exception to the general rule.
If we're ready. There's a guy who spent 24 years having to go through LCB. This gives me great joy to avoid that. Thank you, chairs and Attorney General's office. And I want to, I know we've had a conversation, but the heft behind this lift has been significant. You guys have gone back, 20 years trying to do some of this, trying to modernize it, recognize the hard work. So we're not debating for hours. It's not a reflection on, under appreciation of the amount of work that went into it. And Mr. Torres in the corner, thank you for providing great instructions to us, regardless of where this conversation went, but that your effort and tenacity for the Gaming Commission is always appreciated. So with that, I move that the Nevada Gaming Commission adopt the proposed amendments to Nevada Gaming Control Regulations, Commission Regulations 5.230, 5.2305, 5.231, 5.232, 5.240, 5.242, and 5A.220 as recommended by the Nevada Gaming Control Board in the draft dated March 7, 2024 to be effective upon adoption.
Is there any discussion on the motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And there are none opposed? Thank you.
Thank you,
For
Commissioner.
everything and for answering all our questions. Thank you. I'll get to my next.
Okay, are we ready to proceed? The next one I think is Regulation 6.110 subsection 2. I'm also handling this. Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the Commission, Madam Secretary. For the record, I'm Ed McGaw. I'm with the Nevada Attorney General's Office, representing the Nevada Gaming Control Board in this matter. Before you today is a regulation amendment draft dated March 7th, 2024, which amends subsection 2 of NGC Regulation 6.110. The board has voted to recommend this draft for adoption by the Commission. This amendment removes the requirement that a gaming license make an annual adjustment to gaming revenue for the difference between the actual hopper loads on the casino floor and that which is recorded in the licensee's general ledger. In its place, this amendment adds the requirement that a licensee make this adjustment when a slot machine is either removed from the floor or converted to a version of the slot machine that does not have a hopper. This amendment is intended to save gaming licensees time and resources. To date, the board has received one letter in support of this amendment from the D Las Vegas. To my knowledge, there has been no written submissions opposing this proposed change. If approved by the Commission, this amendment would become effective immediately. With that, I conclude my presentation. I do have Thomasina and Rusty here from the Audit Division, and they'd be happy to answer any questions along with me that you may have. Thank you.
Okay, just to clarify then, so Nicole, Madam Secretary, the public has had an opportunity to comment to the Commission. I know there's been comment to the board, but to the Commission? Yes. Okay, thank you.
Yes.
And there's been nothing beyond what was mentioned by council to the board?
Right.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any questions for anyone that's here to answer our questions if we have any? Doesn't look like I have any questions. Does any member of the public wish to comment? No takers on public comment.
And just to clarify, it's Rusty LeBlanc. He is a senior or a deputy chief in the Audit Division, and Thomasina Fremont is the chief of the Audit Division. I didn't properly introduce him.
Thank you. All right. Well, if we have, I believe Commissioner Solis Rainey wishes to make a motion at this time.
If we're ready, does anybody have any?
Okay. I move that the Nevada Game Commission adopt the proposed amendments to NGC Regulation 6.110 subsection 2 as recommended by the Nevada Game Control Board in the draft dated March 7th, 2024 to be effective upon adoption.
Any discussion on the motion? There being none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And there are none opposed. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
What do we have left? Yeah. So on the proposed repeal of regulation 8.020,
Madam Chair, that is me. If you're ready, I will proceed.
that's so that you're going to do both the proposed repeal of regulation 8.020 and proposed amendments to regulation 8.030, correct?
And also a conforming change to Reg 2.040.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chair Tagliati, members of the Commission, Madam Secretary, members of the Board. For the record, I am John McKellar with the Attorney General's Office. Before you today for your consideration and possible adoption are proposed changes to regulations 8.020 and 8.030 and a conforming change to regulation 2.040. The drafts before you are dated April 3rd, 2024. The proposed changes were considered by the board during a workshop on March 7th, 2024. At the workshop, the board discussed several additions to the proposed changes. The board considered the proposed changes, including the additions, at its meeting on April 3rd, 2024, and recommended the proposed changes to you as reflected in the drafts before you today. The main purpose of the drafts before you today is to streamline and update transfers of interest to reflect actual practice. In line with this purpose, it is proposed that Regulation 8.020 be repealed. Regulation 8.020 is an administrative process for transferring interests among current owners of an entity. To the best of my knowledge, this process has not been used for over 20 years. Coupled with this repeal, there is a necessary change to delete a cross-reference to Regulation 8.020 found in Regulation 2.040. There are no other cross-references to 8.020. The proposed amendments to Regulation 8.030 would make it the single process for transfers of interest. Subsection 1 is updated to ensure all entities for which the Gaming Control Act requires approval of a transfer of interest are captured by the regulation. Subsection 2 is updated to reflect all transfers of interest would be covered by 8.030 and to eliminate superfluous language. Old subsection 3 is incorporated into subsection 2 with the changes. The last sentence of old subsection 3 is deleted in line with new subsection 3. New subsection 3 sets out current practice. All transfers of interest in a licensee or holding company must be approved by the Commission. The language updates from the workshop expressly indicate that other provisions of law may allow for additional approval methods. Specifically, Regulation 8.010's provision carving out PTCs and the efficient method of transfer now contained in new subsection 4. This new subsection would also recognize the practice of approving continuous transfers of interest. Continuous transfers of interest are transfers approved by the Commission, which take place over a period of time. New subsection 4 contains the more efficient method of transfer discussed during the workshop. This more efficient method of transfer would allow a board chair approval of transfers between persons already approved to hold an interest in the entity which is the subject of the transfer, if the transfer would result in the transferee holding a 5% or less interest in a licensee. New subsection 5 contains the NRS 463.489 waiver, which is necessary to make the efficient transfers work within the law. New subsection 6. The only change here recognizes that certificates evidencing a possessory security interest might not be physical, but could be digital. These changes are before you today for possible adoption. The board recommendation is that you make the changes effective upon your adoption, and I am happy to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you. I guess the first question is, have I covered the public's opportunity to comment to the commission in writing? I don't think I have yet.
On this item?
Yeah.
No. So I just ask if anybody has any comments or if you want to have, provide anything to the executive secretary today.
Anyone? There being no one present who wishes to make comment or provide anything to the executive secretary today, do I have any questions from my fellow commissioners on this proposal for change? It appears pretty straightforward, yeah. So does someone wish to make a motion?
Madam Chair, I move for adoption of the proposed amendments to regulation 8.020, 8.030, and 2.040 as presented today. And to be effective upon adoption, I'm sorry. And that's pursuant to the draft dated April 3rd, 2024.
Thank you. Any discussion on the motion? There being none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And there are none opposed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bring us, are we done? Okay, so that concludes our proposed amendments item. At this time, next on our agenda are the administrative reports, starting with Chair Hendrick.
Chair Tagliati. On behalf of the entire Gaming Control Board, we want to welcome Commissioner Silver to the Nevada Gaming Commission. And regarding upcoming meetings, next Thursday, May 23rd, the board will be conducting another regulatory workshop on several important topics, and we encourage attendance and input from all stakeholders. The board's June meeting will be on Wednesday, June 5th. We anticipate at this time 7 non-restricted items starting at 9 a.m., 9 restricted items that'll commence at 1:30. We also have 1 patron dispute. Thank you.
Thank you. How about from the Attorney General's office today?
No, nothing today. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. All right, Madam Secretary, if we close our last agenda item, close with our last agenda item, excuse me, public comments.
This item is placed on the agenda to give the public an opportunity to comment on gaming-related matters.
Okay, I'll first go to Carson City, where it does not appear that anyone's present in the room there to make public comment. How about anyone here in Las Vegas?
Madam Chair, if I might, I just want to do a shout out to the entire Gaming Control Board family. The move and all of the energy that has gone into it. I know Chair Hendrick, you talked about it at your meeting, but as a commissioner who received everything on time and all the work that's been done, there was, if I didn't know that you had just moved, I would have never, noticed it from the work product. So again, just to appreciate all who've done that. And it's nice that being at the Chief Barbie, you're already living over in that neighborhood, so it's not a big deal, but for everyone else, just appreciate it. And when do we think we might have that new hearing room, speaking of LCB, with LCB available for these meetings?
Commissioner Krolicki, I haven't got a more solid date, but the rumor is still late summer. It's a lot of construction questions, but they may be part of the building by late summer, so maybe the August meeting.
But it's just well done. And I know there are outside services and providers who make it seamless also, but you all did it for a couple of weeks and you did it flawlessly. Thank you.
Just a quick shout out also, Chair Hendricks invited us to the board picnic, employee appreciation picnic, and I had an opportunity to speak with a couple of the chiefs, but not all of you. So I wanted to express my appreciation. Not only the move was flawless, and I know IT had a lot to do with it, and that's overseen by Chief Barbie, but all of you just make this, our work look easy, because you always give us the materials that we need. They're always in good order and always available for questions. So I just really appreciate you. And if I didn't have the opportunity to tell you that at the picnic, then I wanted to take a moment to do that now.
I echo your comments. It's pretty remarkable how you moved out. I mean, it's like I walked back there and I was like, there's nothing to see here. You are out of here. And remarkable work that you all do. We appreciate you very much. And I would like to welcome Commissioner Judge Silver, who I've known many, many years. I'm not going to say how many years because then we're just both old, but I will say I haven't worked with her in a really long time and I'm really looking forward to it. So welcome.
Thank you. And I'm honored and thrilled to be here and thank all of you. I'm so sorry I couldn't attend the picnic due to some medical appointments, but I look forward to working with each and every one of you, and I'm excited about next week. I'm going to go over there and get my computer and my badge and be official. So, and I'll be coming around to say hi to most of you. So thank you again. And I am really thrilled. Thanks and honored.
All right.
Credit card goes into the beverage service for the newest commissioner. I'm teasing. For beverage services are always sponsored by the newest member of the commission.
Oh. All right. Well, that concludes that we will close public comment since there's no additional public comment at this time. And I believe that was our last agenda item, and that will conclude the meeting of the Nevada Gaming Commission for the month of May. We are adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.